Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Vito DINO podcast. This is episode number 70. My name is Vito Delsante, and Dean Haspiel has gone fishing.
Hey Vito, how you doing? I'm back.
Catch anything?
Uh, so many ideas. Oh my Lord. Actually, I think I told you last week, or we were talking about an idea I wrote from
Yes.
when I was doing my cat litter.
Yeah.
I got an idea. So imagine the kind of ideas I would get going fishing. Oh my Lord.
Where would you go fishing? I mean, over here we have a bunch of creeks and stuff. Some are like kind of private property, so you can't go on all of them. But like we have a couple of different options. Where would you be going?
Well, I don't go fishing because I don't eat fish, but when I was younger, I actually did fish. I
Hmm.
did but that was like in East Hampton.
Okay.
um, Long Island type thing. So that's what I know. But I feel like, listen, I wouldn't go fishing in the Hudson River. I would,
Well, yeah, no.
I don't want that mutant fish. In fact, I was just drawing a mutant fish.
I
I was
saw
just,
I saw you updated you sent a
oh
Facebook.
yeah, little what's on the art table. I
Mhm.
was working on my latest Red Hook comic strip, and I brought back the sheep's head
Nice.
for this next episode. But yeah, I don't really have my friend Mike Diavola, who we went to film school with at SUNY Purchase, and he and Shannon, my friend Shannon Goldman, who I may have mentioned
Yes.
in the past, had a TV show, for lack of a better term, called Lunkerville,
Okay.
Lunkerville, and it was all about like fishing and Mike D is a very charismatic host and filmmaker, but he always acted like the dummy, like show me how to fish or you show me your technique, or when they would go out and he was like he was the audience, the
The
asking
audience
the question,
proxy.
kind of audience pro exactly.
Yeah.
It was a very successful show, and I think it's still syndicated or something somewhere. It was, bare bones, like, guerrilla style filmmaking, but it was awesome. So I would probably look to that if I ever felt like, I'm sure, with the world of YouTube and videos, I'm sure they can tell you how to do every kind of thing you ever need to know in terms of fishing. So,
Right.
and I will say this though, if I was living on an island by myself, I would catch fish and eat it. Like,
Yeah, yeah, if you had to.
yeah. So I
I'm
just
not a fish eater either.
so there you go.
Um,
We have a bunch of stuff to talk about, but let me ask you this:
yeah,
did you watch the thing I asked you to
I
watch?
did. Let's hold off on that, even though
Hold
it's
off on
very
that.
recent in my
Okay.
memory. Like
Yep.
I just within the last hour I finished it. I want to start where we left off last week. We were talking
Okay.
about your dad and Marilyn Monroe and a
Right.
couple of the articles, I guess, that he was interviewed for People magazine.
Yes.
And the question I had for you was everyone seems to have a kind of conspiracy theory regarding her death.
Hmm.
And I was wondering if number one, if you have a theory of your own. I have mine, and I'll tell you mine. And I was wondering if your dad ever talked about it. Like maybe not so much a theory, but like if your dad ever brought it up, like in conversation.
It's in his first book.
Is it okay?
His first book. What's it called? I feel like I was just talking to him too. We probably could get him on my cell phone and get him to talk, but the sound would be bad. Maybe we can
Yeah.
get him on the show one day.
Yeah, I would love to.
But he I'm trying to piece this together. There's another author named Anthony Summers who wrote a Maryland book called Goddess, I think.
Yes. No, I thought that was
What's her name?
yeah, not Gloria Steinem,
All right, Anthony
Joyce Carol Oates.
Joyce Carol Oates, but he did a book called Goddess. Goddess: The Secret Lives of Marilyn Monroe.
Uh-huh.
And weirdly enough, I had been parlaying with him a lot recently because he and my father have been talking. In fact, in a lot of ways, um, Anthony Summers was responsible for the People magazine article
Oh, cool. Okay.
because, I mean, this is not much of a spoiler. I'm just trying to find my dad's first book, what it was titled. First book, it was called. Oh, Marilyn, the ultimate look at the legend.
Mhm.
So just for people didn't hear last week's episode or just coming in for the first time, my father knew Marilyn Monroe over the last 8 years of her life. He met her as a 16-year-old at the St. Regis Hotel. When he went to
One,
go
she
meet
was
her,
around the time she was doing some, not Some Like It Hot, the other one,
I think
Some
7 Year
Rich.
Itch, 7 Year Itch. And when he approached her, he didn't have like a piece of paper or a pen to ask for an autograph. So he asked her to kiss him. And she kissed him on the cheek. And there was a lot of pictures. And then that over years developed into a friendship.
Right.
So anyway, but yeah, so that's just the short version. And my dad's written 3 books. Oh, and so Tony Summers, who wrote Goddess, my father wanted to do a 4th book that would honor and celebrate her 100th birthday,
Hmm.
which is this year. In fact, I
Yeah.
think it's June 1st. It's coming up like in a couple of weeks. And he was talking to Anthony Summers and he was trying to figure out, is there any publishers that might be interested? Of course, when you start thinking about these ideas during the very year, the 100th anniversary, publishing is like 2 years, ahead.
Yeah.
So, any publisher that would take it on now wouldn't be able to publish it for a year or two anyway,
Right.
So he kind of missed the boat in that way. And I tried to explain that to him, but he and Anthony Summers were discussing the possibility of trying to do something. And ultimately, what it came out to was my dad getting a People magazine article,
Right.
which he still has a book idea and other stuff, and maybe that'll happen.
Yeah.
But you asking about her Marilyn's death. So listen, I only know about Marilyn as much as my father knows,
Mhm.
and what I've retained. And I think it was Anthony Summers who was privy to some data and some information. Apparently, I wasn't there, and I don't know if my father heard this, but basically he believed she was murdered.
Mhm.
She famously had an affair with the president of the United States, John F. Kennedy, and then I think she might even had an affair with Robert
Right.
F. Kennedy.
That's the popular
Right.
conspiracy, I guess, or whatever. Yeah.
And again, my father could explain all this in better detail than I can, but
And I say conspiracy only because I'm not trying to put words in your dad's mouth or in yours.
right,
I'm just,
right, covering the
popular
bases.
thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, there is a conspiracy there. There's all whole kinds of stuff. Like even the murder of JFK
Yeah.
is crazy, right? So who did it really, kind of a thing. Uh, she, I don't know what would have if she were murdered, what would have been like the reason why to murder her, right?
Right.
Like, did she have secret information about America or the Kennedys? No, because I think people knew, right, that there was hanky panky going on, as it
Right.
were. So I don't know if that's a after years later, but I believe at the time it just seemed to be obvious or whatever.
Mhm.
But maybe, but there was, and my father again explains this in his book, which is the last chapter of his first book. And it was controversial that he wrote that because apparently there was was it San Giacomo or one of those mafia kind
Oh,
of um,
Giancana
Giacomo, I think
and
had
Giancana.
had bugged her home. And whenever you walk in, it starts recording if there's any sound, and it turns off when it's not, blah blah blah, kind of a thing. And so, and then apparently, I don't know if Robert Kennedy showed up, and then another guy whose name escapes me, who's like a famous kind of actor, filmmaker,
Peter Lawton.
Peter Lawton, I think. Okay, so you're looking this up right now. You're
No,
seeing
no,
some of
this
them.
is
Oh,
off the dome, brother.
off the dome. See, I retain these things and then I erase them because they're so prominent in my life. It's almost that famous, was it Jim Steranko did a Hulk cover where he's bent backwards
Yes.
and the title is just crushing him while he's trying to hold up the title. Oh no, it's
Yes.
an Inhumans cover. It's an Inhumans cover. The Hulk in Inhumans, and he's holding up. So I feel like that with Marilyn sometimes,
Mm,
like someone I
makes
never
sense.
got to meet. But she's always been a shadow and a light over me in a lot
Mhm.
of ways. Anyway, so apparently like 2 or 3 of these people came in to like shut her up. And maybe it wasn't necessarily a murder. I think it might have been an accident. That's
Okay.
another way to look at it. But apparently, either someone was hiding in the closet, or there was a recording that apparently somebody has a recording of her murder. I think the which basically was shutting her up. I don't know if she was going to say something, or if she got mad. I don't know all the details. Again, you have to read my father's version of it
Mhm.
from what he understands. But in trying to shut her up, a pillow over the head, suffocated to death, basically. There was another story later on that an ambulance driver, when they finally called an ambulance driver and tried to be hush hush about, or maybe they called it to see if she could be revived. And
Uh-huh.
apparently she did kind of revive, apparently in an ambulance, and then died. And then they decided to bring her back. Again, did that really happen? I don't know.
Right.
But apparently there was an ambulance driver that had that. There's a lot of fishy stuff around this story. And the fishiest one being, and my father, I think, made this observation, was a couple of things. When the autopsy came out, they were like, oh, she had swallowed all these pills, these
Mhm.
sleeping pills next to her bed, right? But my father discovered a couple of things. Her door was locked. So, in other words, it was locked, I think, from the outside, and her maid, who might have been there, I think that she just couldn't get out the room unless somebody had unlocked it or something like about something with the door locked. But more importantly, her private bathroom in her bedroom, the sink was busted. There was no plumbing.
Oh, weird.
And my father was like, well, it's going to be really hard to swallow 30 or 40 pills without water.
Right.
That could be a little difficult to pull off, like
I have
unless you
trouble with it
really,
too.
exactly. We all have. And the other thing about sleeping pills, apparently, uh, that comes off when they do an autopsy. That too suffocates you
Mm.
when you overdose on, so that it appears as a suffocation or appears as a sleeping
Got it.
pill death. And he's is not convinced that she took any sleeping pills. I mean,
Mm.
she might have taken a couple to go to sleep or whatever originally,
Right.
but then she didn't try to kill herself by overdosing on sleeping pills. He doesn't believe that. Another curious thing is that at her desk side, next to her bed, there was in the drawer just a few pictures of like what you might consider like friends and family.
Mhm.
And one of the pictures in there was a picture of my father.
Oh man, that kills me. So
Yeah.
my theory, I guess, is not so far from yours. I kind of think it's an accident. I believe that her number one, the guy who did her autopsy, Japanese fella whose name escapes me. He also, I believe, did an autopsy for either Natalie Wood or Nicole Brown Simpson. There's something about that guy that's fishy to me.
I was gonna say he might be a paid off, and like it'd probably
Right.
be more Natalie Wood, who did drown in the water, I believe.
Yes.
She
Yeah.
died.
Yeah.
So
So he's a very hinky person to me. But
right.
my personal belief, I've read books, not your dad's, funny enough, but I've read books. I have your dad's books somewhere though, and I've listened to podcasts, I've watched movies, and the only thing I can come up to, the only answer I have is that she had a psychiatrist who was possibly physically engaged with her, who was married, who wouldn't let her see other doctors, who prescribed her these different pills. And I just think that he was an enabler and she
Hmm.
died accidentally. Maybe she took one extra pill, you know.
So you think it was more of a overdose than a people coming in and suffocating her with a pillow?
Right. And maybe that's partially me wanting to believe better.
Hmm.
I don't really care for that doctor's, like his
Sure.
uh,
Sure.
quote unquote, like, because he apparently was one of the first people over the house. And then he convinced Eunice, the maid, to not call the cops for like 3 hours, like before, anything happened. I don't, I just, there's something about that doctor I don't trust either. But
Yeah.
um, I am reading a book currently called The Fixer, which is about Freddie Otash, who was he pops up in a lot of James Ellroy books, funny enough. He's a real person. former FBI agent, studio fixer, who apparently, like you kind of hinted at, um, had Marilyn's house bugged, and he apparently heard her, last night on Earth.
All right.
I
Well,
haven't gotten to that part in the book yet, but
right.
again, I'll reserve judgment for what it could be and what it could be about. But
Right.
I find it fascinating for me anyway. Like um, your life, your childhood anyway, um, divorced from comics and stuff, is so interesting as an outlier. Like you're the outlier of things that are happening around you. You know what I mean? Like your mom
Well,
being
you're a kid. You're a kid, so like you're just along for the ride
right.
early on. Like you're just people show up in your room. Like I remember before you get to what your point is, but real quick to respond to one thing, like I would tell stories of my childhood, and people would be like, "Stop bragging." I'm like, I can't. I'm not bragging. I'm just telling you who was there.
Right.
And like it sounds like I'm this famous person and that
Yeah.
like yeah, who else, Dean? I'm like, I'm not. I'm just telling you what was there. Like
My but like, your life is so interesting as being a part of this world, theater with your mom, your dad with his connection to Marilyn and Shelley Winters and Julie Newmar kissing you and all that stuff.
Jane Mansfield, Kim Novak. I mean,
It's crazy,
it is crazy.
it's incredible that this part of your life has not touched a comic book page yet. Do you know what I mean? I mean, granted, your memories of it might be a little wishy-washy, or your mom's still around. I'm sure she would have better.
And believe me, my dad reminds me of all of this every time I see him.
But
So
it's
yeah.
funny that you say that because I've only had one incident in my life where I had a similar. There are two related incidents that make up this one story, and it revolves around Madonna because Madonna was a very big person in my dad's life, not in the way that you think. Her brother, Chris, he had a photo studio next door to my stepmother's father, who had a photo studio as well. So they became really good friends. Chris ended up dating my stepmom's brother. They were together for a very long time. That's how I met Chris, through her brother, Matthew. And then there was a story. I had gone up to New York in the Christmas season, the Christmas holiday from school, 1990, my senior year. So I go to New York to spend time with my little sister because I hadn't seen her since my dad's funeral. And we had Christmas or Christmas Eve dinner at her mom's house. And Adele was one of the most, very much like your mom, involved in the arts. She was kind of like trying to revive or do something with a NIAC arts program. And she's taking me for a tour around the house because I'd never been. And she's pointing at this room off of the main living room. And she goes, "Does that look familiar to you?" I'm looking, it's a polka dot outfit, or at least polka dot on like some weird fat sleeves. I'm like, "Yeah, kind of." She goes, "That was Madonna wore that on tour, and she donated it for us to get donations for the Woody Cut." I was like, "That is really cool." And then they go, "Oh, that's nothing. You should have heard what happened at Thanksgiving." And apparently Madonna called the house looking for Chris. So I'm thinking, all right, this is funny. Ha ha ha, whatever. New Year's Eve comes around. I'm in a car with my stepmother and my sister, and we're going to dinner. Um, my stepmother is dating somebody who may or may not have been Ted Casablancas, who was
Oh wow,
the
yeah.
big model guy. Because my dad and my stepmom, I've probably posted pictures on Facebook of them modeling. They used to do modeling for like book covers and stuff. And my little sister even was on a book cover once, and she was either dating Ted Casablancas or she knew him or something or other. Ted Casablancas, who's also weirdly related in the Epstein stuff. So, it's
Sure.
nothing to shake a stick at. So we're on our way to this dinner, and she goes, "I have to apologize to you." And I was like, "What for?" She goes, "I'm forcing you to come to this dinner. You could have had a good time, tonight." And I was like, "What was I going to do? I don't know anybody. Like all my friends are back in, Pennsylvania and stuff." She goes, "No, you got invited to a party tonight, And I was like, what are you talking about? She goes, so Douglas and Lewis, who were her brother and his boyfriend, lived upstairs. And Douglas had gotten a phone call from Matthew. And Matthew goes, oh, sorry, not Matthew, Robbie. Robbie was Chris's longtime boyfriend. Matthew was my dad's, like, basically like his brother-in-law, but like they're best friends. So Robbie called Douglas and said, "Hey, what are you guys doing tonight?" Douglas says, "We're just probably going to watch the ball drop." He goes, "Well, Madonna's having a party. Do you guys want to come?" And they're like, "Oh, maybe, uh, Vito's downstairs, like, they all know me, it's like, Vito's downstairs. Do you think he'd want to, you think we could bring him?" And he's like, "Yeah, go ahead." So I was this close to probably losing. Well, I already lost my virginity at that point, but probably being in some kind of weird, like, gay, lesbian, like, orgy on New Year's Eve at Madonna's house. And I was this close.
Oh my
And I was so upset. I was like, I could have had the best
Oh,
story to tell people,
and especially since like
And I
you
was
thought they were
17.
and you thought they were talking about New Year's Eve when they said ball dropping.
But, but again, like, that's the only, like, tangential,
Right,
so,
right.
like, for me, especially old Hollywood is very, very interesting to me. I love old movies, this. I love doing, like, reading at James Elroy books, which are basically LA of the 40s and 50s and 60s. So all that
Right.
stuff kind of fascinates me. So having you as not a resource, but as somebody that's like, hey, what was Kim Novak like? Like, and to
Right, right, right.
to be able to ask you that. And I'm like,
Sure.
Marilyn figures so prominently into your dad's life.
Yeah.
Like I said, I always felt a connection to her. My dad had the same birthday, um, same birthday, not date. I think they
Right.
were separated by 10 years.
Right.
But, like, I always, like, and I, again, like, I have a planned project to do with Steve Walker at some point about Maryland, that's totally fictional, nothing to do with, the truth or anything. But yeah, I just, especially with the dad's article, I was like, I gotta ask Dean, like, what he thinks about this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very possible that again, if I knew more, if I remembered more of the details of why she would have been killed or accidentally killed,
Mhm.
um, uh, I don't. It's just so tragic because I asked my dad if she were alive today, what would she be doing? And me and Whitney, and I interviewed him earlier, but me and Whitney did extensive interviews of my father. We have hours upon hours. Like
Wow.
one day, she wanted to professionally edit it, and after a while, we were getting so much stuff. I was like, we should just put it out there, just
Yeah.
as is, raw material, kind of a thing. So one day, we plan to do that. And I know it upsets my dad that we didn't do it because it might be after his lifetime. I'm not sure yet because of trying to just make ends meet.
Right.
And because the material is so good that it begs to be professionally done and maybe even be sold to a whatever kind
Right.
of a thing. That's how good it is. But also my dad is going to be, I think they were just there was a little snippet of a podcast interview he did for a Maryland person that has a lot of her stuff. I forget his name right now, but
Yeah.
I think on her birthday there will be a podcast
Oh,
that he's either doing live on a phone or he already recorded. I can't remember right now. So
second you put that link up, I'll be listening because I,
yeah,
again,
and I'm visiting my dad in a week, and I was considering maybe doing a quick little 10-minute thing with him that I might put up on a Substack
yeah,
for
yeah.
for June 1st or whatever. Anyway, there's so much Maryland stuff, and for me, what's weird is like I mean, I guess you could say this about Shelley Winters and a certain amount of people, but
Right.
like I never got to arrive at Maryland on my own. Like
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I see what you
say that
mean.
she was forced on me, I don't mean it in that way, but let's just say she was forced upon me and with a very strong point of view,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That I never got to like create my own point of view to the point where I almost rejected her. It's almost like
I
I was vying for I'm right, I want the attention, kind of a thing.
Mhm.
If I'm going to be honest, because it's hard to compete with a Marilyn Monroe. you
Yeah.
know.
You would have been born shortly after
I
that.
was born, I think, was she, did she die in 64,
62.
3,
62.
62? So
Mhm.
yeah, 5 years later.
Yeah.
5 years.
Like that's insane. Like, like
Yeah.
you're like because I don't want to dwell on it. We have other stuff
Yeah,
to
yeah.
talk about, but like
Yeah, yeah.
it's such a like the thing that popped into my head was imagine being you're basically like in a Greek tragedy or a Greek myth. You're like the human that got touched by gods. Do you know what I mean? In a sense, like
Mhm.
because movie stars are somewhat mythologized. Excuse me,
Mythologized.
mythologized. Thank you.
But yes, as we do with people that we admire or
Right.
whatever, or they're, it's funny because can do one movie and just do a really good job in a movie and never do it again, but they'll always be known for that movie if it's
Right.
a well-known, and like it's like a 2 hour thing that they spent a few months on or something, like it's insane how we do that. And I'm a culprit of it. I grew up lauding celebrity because my father did, like, so that it
Right.
taught me,
Hmm.
or what I tried to turn it into was, at least if I saw somebody that was famous or that I admired or influenced me, at least I try to go up and shake their hand and say thank you,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. But when you worked in Jim Hanley's universe before it became JHU Comics, you were a guy that was around. You were around Tarantino. I never met Tarantino.
Yeah. What a trip. He's a trip. The guy who I really came away from that experience having profound respect for was Robert Rodriguez.
I was gonna say Robert
Like
Rodriguez.
because he was the same, and like just he and I walked around the store talking about Jack Kirby, which funny enough, segue into
Yep.
your boy
Yep.
was at not me, but Dean was at a street naming ceremony. Look at that, man.
So I went to the street naming ceremony, and dude, I'm gonna try and remember some of the people I saw and talked to. Talk about like our comics celebrity. Do you know
What's
what I'm saying?
crazy is I've seen so many pictures from so many people, Miscavige, Fred Van Lente, Mike Lilly, like the guys that I know that were there, and yet no overlap. Like I don't
Yeah.
see you in this guy's picture or
Right.
Fred
Right.
in
Right.
this. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Like I
It,
can't imagine how many people were there.
it was really like, okay. So before I show you some of the ephemera, okay, that I got here. Um, I got privy to that a bunch of people were meeting up early. The Roy Schwartz, who was the lead organizer of
Mhm.
this happening
Is he associated with the
2 years
Kirby
before,
Museum?
he was involved with Juice,
Okay,
okay,
yeah,
and Cosmic Con,
that's like a Jewish comic.
yeah, Jewish comics thing. And actually, he's doing a version of it on July 11th in Cleveland with a Superman thing and a
Nice.
Harvey Picard thing and a whole
Yeah.
bunch of stuff. So, and I was invited, but I can't go because am going to IC3 in Jacksonville, which is in Florida, so I can go visit my
Your
mom.
mom. Yeah.
Anyway, and we'll talk about that later, another podcast. So Roy Schwartz and a bunch of other people, including like the likes of Karen Green and other, and councilmen and Marvel and a whole bunch of stuff. And like Anna Senti, I've recently in recent years have become her Marvel date, which
Yes.
I'm tickles me to no end. And she's like, "Hey, you're gonna come to this thing?" I was like, "Where is it?" And like, so this was at Essex and Delancey. And by the way, the event took place like a block away from Jack Kirby's home. Okay, which is awesome. But at the new Essex kind of food court, on the second floor was a bunch of people. And I get there, and there's a lot of the usual suspects. I mean, there's George Jean Gastinez, from New York
New York
Times,
Times.
Calvin Reed, Publishers Weekly, Heidi McDonald, of course, and then like, oh, there's Mark Evanier, like, or Mark Evanier, and like, and there's Jim Steranko, and I go over and I get it. I get in line to like, pay respect to Jim Steranko, and we wind up talking for like 5-10 minutes, and get a picture with him, which he's very persnickety about. So I felt very
You got to catch
honored.
his hair at the right angle.
Exactly, exactly. So, and there was, I'm trying to think of other people there because that's what happens is you start to blank. And then there were like some of the really cool Fantastic Four cosplayers who
So
go to the different conventions, which was
yeah.
cool to have. It was like kind of a who. There's Tom Brevoort, who's editing Fantastic Four for many, many years.
Mm.
CB Cebulski, the editor in chief of Marvel. Obviously, like a lot of those people were showing up. Peter Cooper at one point I saw, and I'm going to look at some pictures I took just for the podcast. I know I put some pictures up, but there was also like younger generation like Monty Keene and Laserman.
Mhm.
Who else was there? Oh, Paul Levitz, of course.
Oh yeah, great.
He gave a really good speech. And then it's funny because at one point when Steranko gave his speech, he was talking about how he asked Jack once to do him a sketch, and I think it was a Captain America, and he said he saw the craziest thing. He went to the blank piece of paper and he started drawing Captain America at his belt buckle.
Hmm.
And he's like, "What is going? Nobody starts at the belt buckle, but with Jack Kirby, you start at the belt buckle."
It makes
Okay,
sense when you think about it.
I mean,
Because
like
all of his
everything else
characters
is
are always
exploding
moving.
off that
Yeah.
center, right? So it's almost like, and I'd also asked, I've asked too many cartoonists now, people like Steranko and other people, the new Jack Kirby, Mark Avenia. Actually asked Mark Avenia, I was like, did he ever do a layout? He said no. I was like,
Yeah, I believe
what
it.
did he do? He said he traced what was in his mind.
I imagine the thing about
By the way,
Jack.
Larry Lieber, I talked to Larry Lieber
Really?
at the Society of Illustrated, but that was later. So hold on, let me just quickly kind of do a little rundown here of, the Jack Kirby's grandchildren were there,
Mhm.
and I got to meet all of them. I thanked them. Um, Let me see who else was here. I took a video, obviously, of the, what's it
The,
called?
the reveal.
The reveal, and then I tried to show the crowd how big it was. Because what happened was when I got there was a whole street that was quarantined, and I saw a lot of those Haddad kind of
Time out. Not
what?
quarantined, cordoned off. Quarantine
Well,
makes it
it
seem
looked
like somebody was
quarantined to
sick.
me,
It was
right? Well,
cordoned
no
off.
one's sick, except it was a bunch of cartoonists. Anyway, but there was a lot of Haddad kind of trailers
I
for
that
Hollywood.
was one of the things I noticed. I was like, oh, how funny that like there's like halal meat and like Middle Eastern food like at a
Oh, we
Jewish.
were joking that the corner McDonald's
Yeah.
that when Jack was young would go there when it was 100 served only. No, there probably wasn't even it. Oh my God, I'm getting texts from Frank Miller's right hand lady, Selene, right now. It's so
Oh,
funny. So
okay.
she was there and
When's
she
he on
gave
the
me
podcast again? I'm just kidding.
yeah, I know. I did talk to her about putting him on a podcast because he's going to be hawking his new book that she gave me a dummy copy of, like
I'll sit here and
early copy.
talk with him. I don't care.
Oh, absolutely. So there's Selene Thomas, Karen Green. I saw some old school friends, Adam Lawrence, Delma Walters Jr. There was Fred Van Lente and Crystal Skillman. Trying to think who else.
Fred Harper was there, I think I saw.
Fred Harper, I didn't see him, but I saw that he was there.
Like, isn't
Oh,
that crazy? Like, there's so
I
many.
know.
Like, you have to.
Danny Figueroa, Anna Senti, Alyssa Whitney, Karen Berger. I hadn't seen Karen Berger
Oh
in
wow,
years.
yeah, I did
Was
see her.
there. So I took pictures with her. My buddy Pat Palermo. Let's see. Rand Hoppy, of course, of the Jack Kirby Museum was there. And like I tried to take a bunch of pictures, but you couldn't get it all. And then I went and had lunch with Pat Palermo at El Castilla de Agua, which is a block away from. And then I took him over and I made him take pictures
You
of
were in the
him at the
doorway.
Kirby address in the
Yeah.
doorway as well. And then I went back and like there was like a Kirby gallery type thing or something going on in the afternoon part. Like,
Okay.
and I thought I was just going to go back and work at my studio. So I went back to Brooklyn and like I'm getting texts from Anna Senti and Selene Thomas, Frank Miller's right hand lady. And they're like, "Aren't you coming to the Society of Illustrators thing?" I was like, "I don't know what you're talking. Like, I wasn't invited. I don't know what this is." Like, it was a private event that Marvel put together.
Mm,
Okay, and then they were like, "Don't worry, we'll get you on. I'll get you a +1." So I'm like, I'm trying to do some work, and my mind is racing. Like, I just had this amazing. We kind of had our holiday. Like, it's like we
yeah,
won,
yeah.
you know. And well, that's what I was going to say about that street with all these like trailers. They're shooting a film or something. I figured, oh well, oh this sucks. They're gonna shoot a movie at the same time we're doing this. No, that was for Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
Not the trailers, but the street that had been cordoned off.
Oh, I
So
see what you're saying. Yeah, that's
I was
cool.
like, oh, this isn't for a movie. This is for Jack Kirby. So that was awesome. Anyway, I go back to Brooklyn. I'm here for like a couple hours. And suddenly I'm going back to, now I'm taking the train to the Society of Illustrators and, 63rd and Lex. And I get there and like, who did I first see in the door? I don't think it was Larry Lieber, but it was someone else that was an old timer. And like, we had to go 2 flights up to the bar and the where the food was. And it was a who's who, man, of like Marvel, like people who work there now, been working there forever. There's Mark Cavanier and Larry Lieber and Danny Fingeroth and Jim Salicrup. And I'm sitting there talking to those guys. I walk over, I'm hanging out with Larry Hama and Frank Miller. Um, who else was there? I met this other cool guy that God, I have to look up his name, but he apparently drew the first hip hop comic in the mid '80s and used to draw and hang out with Keith Haring.
Wow.
That was cool. Karen Berger, God, Miriam Mora, who was an organizer of Juice. It just, like I said, there's a lot of names that are going to escape me because Paul Levitt, like they're all, and I can't believe I'm in this room. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And yet no one's blinking. Like, what are you doing here?
All right.
Like, because they've seen me. I've been around the block. I've paid my dues a little bit.
I would say.
So like, and I'm a big Kirby proponent, as we are. Like, so yeah, nobody was blinking about that. And God, I wish I could remember who else I talked to. I mean, I just had great little conversations all over the place,
That's nice.
and we were all there to honor Jack. So
Yeah, it's kind of I can't imagine, the average lay person walking up, like, like coming out of the subway, at Delancey and just being like, what's going on? Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, what is that? Why are all these people here and food trucks and all this stuff? And then like people are clapping and what's happening,
yep, yep.
To,
Let
to
me
not
tell
to not
you.
know who Jack Kirby is would be that would be the day to get your education.
Well, now we have a street. So like, I mean, sometimes I'll walk down the street and I see name someone's name Way. Like the
Mhm.
first one I did this was Seth Kushner,
Yeah,
and he had a street named from this where he lived. And so anyway, Marvel printed this very special comic,
that's cool.
Jack Kirby Way. I'm showing it right now on the thing, and basically, it's a redesigned version cover of issue number 29 of the Fantastic Four. It started on Yancey Street, so
That's great.
it's basically a reprint of a start, but it starts off with was it 4 pages, like a 4-page essay by Roy Schwartz saying it started on Delancey Street, you know,
Oh,
and there's a whole thing putting this whole story into context. And yeah, there's a little Captain America in there, and then showing from the movie, the thing, and then this other really cool drawing of the thing wrapped up in a light pole from Yancey Street. Um, and then you can read the comic book. And I was reading the comic book on the subway. Man, it takes a lot longer to read a Stan Lee page, and not because it's boring. It's just a lot going on. Oh my,
yeah.
he had a gift for gab. I'll say that. Um, and then the issue ends with, um, gosh, oh, so Rand Hoppy, the director of the Jack Kirby Museum, did a 2-page little bit, you know, I guess about their effort, and then ends with that famous drawing of Jack drawing all the characters, a self-portrait type thing, So,
Mhm.
um, I don't know if this is like on eBay for like $1,000 or something
I'm
right now.
you know what's funny? as soon as I saw you hold that up, I was like, some asshole's probably going to try to put this on eBay. I can tell you right now, there is not one, and I'm trying a bunch of different
That's awesome.
search thingies. So I would hope there wouldn't be.
And then Marvel also, I don't know if I can get close enough, and I still have it in the plastic, made a Jack Kirby pin
Nice.
that I'm showing right now. And I grabbed a few of these actually. Yeah, it says Jack Kirby Way, Lower East Side, NYC.
Send one to me. I would love to rock that.
Yeah, let me see if I might have an extra one of those. So I don't know, man. It's like it was our holiday. It was
I
our
was gonna say
comics holiday.
it's like do you know what's crazy is we don't have a kind of
Oh, and
walk
I have to
like
mention the Jacked
yes,
Kirby
Tommy
podcast
was there,
guys,
I saw.
Tommy and Mike D, and a whole bunch of that crew, and they're awesome, and I'm sure they're going to do a great podcast about it. So, anyway, you were saying,
Yeah, I
sorry,
was saying that we don't have like the Hollywood Walk of Fame. We should like there should totally be one in the Bronx if there isn't one already,
right?
at the very least, because a lot of
You mean like absolutely? I mean, actually, somewhat like Stan Lee's on there. You
I
know,
think, yeah.
yeah, no, I've seen it. One of the things we talked about, and some of them are really obvious, but this is something I wanted to bring up in this portion of the conversation was, oh, so I was hanging out with Mark Zenditko
Yes.
and his sister, and we were talking about Steve a lot, and he told me that he just got the final pages of all of the static comics that Steve
Mhm.
Ditko did, colored. So they're going to be doing a collection of that. Um, and he's got a lot of plans and everything. So I was hanging out with him a bunch, and one of the questions I had was, well, we have Jack Kirby Way on Delancey, basically Yancey Street.
Yeah.
Where would Steve Ditko's be? And I have two easy answers. So to me, it's not necessarily where you grew up, because for him, I think it was in Pennsylvania,
Yeah,
right?
Johnstown, right?
Now you could try to make 50 whatever it was, 51st Street, whatever it was that he lived at, in his latter years.
Oh, where you
Um,
went to see him with your mom?
where I saw him a few times, his office. You
Yeah.
could say that street could maybe be, because like that's where he was like rediscovered, as it were, right? But I would either do Bleecker Street
To the Doctor Strange.
or wherever in Queens for
Oh, in
Spider-Man.
Forest Hills.
You
I would say
know,
Bleecker Street's probably the better choice,
but
only
more people will go
because
to the Bleecker Street. You
it'll
know,
be like you could make like a tour, like from Bleecker and then walk
sure.
over.
But then I thought about, because Frank Miller we were seeing him that night, and I mean, come on, he has been he is also super impactful with the work he's
Absolutely.
done,
Absolutely.
and we were all like, well, it's Hell's Kitchen. It's got to
Yeah.
be, and he has a loft in Hell's Kitchen, so it has
Mhm.
to be somewhere. Then I was trying to think a couple of more, and then I'll have a final question for you. Will Eisner. I'm just trying to think of like who are the like the Mount, what we call the Mount Sinai of comics, the Mount Rushmore, right?
Right.
Like people who really, and there is a ton of names. You keep going, it becomes like our verses list, right? At
Yeah.
some,
I would
but there,
say
but
uh,
Will Eisner, come on,
should be in the Bronx somewhere. No?
Well, I think Stan Lee has a Stan Lee Way in the Bronx, by the way.
Okay.
You
I
know,
know that.
I mean, one of them could be Harvey Kurtzman, maybe, but you know, but like, I don't know. I feel like what was interesting about Jack Kirby Way is that he really did, like Yancey Street, what really was part of the fabric of the Fantastic Four, especially the
Absolutely.
Thing, and part of Marvel Comics, as was Bleecker Street for Doctor Strange, as is Queens for Spider-Man.
I don't know.
So that's what I'm also thinking about, and I don't know where Will Eisner necessarily lived, or if it was prominent in his, well, it was prominent. New York City was prominent in his
Right.
work, and wherever the spirit lived. Did he live in a fake
And
town?
he was a it was a fake fictitious city. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my
But
head.
was it based on, like, probably New York City or
No,
something,
it seemed more like Newark, maybe
Ah,
Gowanus, like just like sludge and stuff. Um,
true,
I'm
true.
wondering, where would Joe Simon be? Like,
Well, he's most associated with Captain America. So
yeah,
now, I don't know if this is canon from early on or if it is now, but don't they say that Captain America was born in Red Hook?
in Brooklyn, yeah,
in
but yeah,
Brooklyn, and
I don't
now
know where
they've made it, I
Joe.
think, Red Hook.
Mhm.
I
That'd be
don't think Joe
great.
Simon was there. Oh, that was Jesse Simon was there, by the way. I
Oh,
talked to him
cool.
a little bit, his grandson.
Yeah.
But so my question to you, and I have the same question for me. Well, I know my okay. Where if we had a Vito Delsante way, where would
Mhm.
that be?
I would love for it to be at the corner of Victory Boulevard and Jersey Street, Staten Island, where I spent 99% of my childhood. Um, Alternately, you could say 1020 Bay Street, which is where my grandparents, my father's side of the family was, but I wasn't there as much as I was Jersey Street. I already have a section of a library here named after me, so I feel like having a street name for me here would be just kind of too much. Like, who the hell is this guy? So I would prefer to have something in Staten Island.
But I like the idea of formative years, and I like that first address you said,
Yeah.
because that's in conjunction with my address, which would probably be 79th Street and Broadway
Hmm.
for a couple of reasons. First of all, I grew up there as a child to discovering comics, and my church was the newsstand where I got comics in front of a synagogue,
Yeah.
So I just feel like that to me is a no-brainer. That's where all that passion came through there, and that escapism came living in that area. And actually, frankly, I've only lived in four addresses anyway.
Yeah.
So maybe,
Up to you.
I mean, I've lived in Brooklyn in one address longer than any other address now,
Same.
but it's 79th Street and Broadway, 230 West 79th Street and
Yeah.
Broadway.
554 Jersey Street is across from the sanitation department depot. It's not much to look at, but
Mm-hmm.
right
Mm-hmm.
there, like right there at the bus stop, 554, which is Jersey Street and Victory Boulevard. Across the street was my doctor, who was um, Theodore Atlas, Dr. Atlas, whose son became famous for being Mike Tyson's trainer.
Oh, wow.
So
Jeez.
he was right across the street. There's my other brush with fame. And then, like my comics were read right there on the stoop.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had plenty of action figures go over my fence with my
Mm-hmm.
neighbors. So
Yep.
so
Yep.
it's just like it just makes sense.
I know you have some topics.
Yeah, couple.
I have some, but I have to acknowledge today, the day we're recording this, May
Yes.
13th, 2026, and it'll be coming out a little bit later when people hear this. Today is the 50th anniversary of Harvey Peker's American Splendor #1 being published, self-published today, 50 years. And he changed comics with American Splendor #1.
Who worked on that comic book with him?
I'd have to look it up. I don't, Crumb didn't do the cover, and I
No.
don't know if he's in the first issue. I assume he is. And
I
that's a question that Josh Dufeld could answer.
I don't think Gary Dunn was on the first issue either. I know that he did a lot of early issues, but I don't think he was on.
Right, right. Um, I'm doing a little quick because it's kind of interesting. American Splendor #1. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, well, Gary Dunn.
Oh,
So Brian Bram, Greg Budget, Gary Dunn, someone named Lad Jarek, which I've never even heard of, and R. Crumb.
how about that?
Yep.
How about that?
So I mean, and Budget and Dumb, I remember very well. Obviously,
Yeah,
and our Crumb is super. Is like the Jack Kirby of independent comics. He's on the Mount
that's
Sinai.
that's an interesting way to put it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Do you know what I find not fascinating, but like just crazy? Okay, so it's 50 years today, right?
Yep.
You would have been 8 years old. I mean, going on 9 years old.
Yep. Yep.
So imagine, I'm sure you didn't at that time, but imagine finding this book at that age. Do you know what I mean? Like finding American Splendor #1 at the age that you were when it came out and the impact it may or may not have had on you.
So I remember discovering, first of all, in 1976, which means a year later, I'm picking up a Star Wars comic drawn by
Yeah.
a guy that I would be an assistant to 9 years later, Howard Chaykin,
Your
right?
life, man. I swear, like it's just, and again, and I say this because if you go way, way, way back to our very first episode, I said, "Do you think you're better than me?" And
And I
it's
don't even
like,
have to answer it. It's
no, you
only
don't. And
it's
the
in
other part is,
discussion that answers it. No, it's not about better. It's not about
and like I'm just a ferry ride away from where you were. You know what I mean? Like we were so close yet so freaking far away when you
it's so
think about
far.
it.
It's crazy.
But go
It's
ahead. I'm
crazy.
sorry. You were talking about 76.
Oh, so 76. So yeah, nine. Let's say I'm about to be nine. And I would discover because at age 12, I always remember distinctly age 12 is when I decided to do comics for the rest of my life or figure it out. So like that's 3 years later. And then after discovering Marvel, getting really locked into Marvel and DC comics and all that, probably be a couple of years later that I'd be like, what's alternative? What else is
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
And then I would discover like probably an early issue of the magazine size American Splendor, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It was like sized like a Mad magazine almost.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So like I might have picked it up and been like, oh, okay, and I remember distinctly, I always cite Chester Brown's Yummy Fur as kind of blowing my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really like looking at Zap or anything like that. And, it just wasn't my thing. Like I respect R. Crumb and I'd like to meet him someday and shake his hand, and I, I'm afraid that he'd be like, oh, you're that guy that Picard used to work with after a while.
I hadn't even considered the connection you two would have to at least open a conversation.
And
But
he might even be like, yeah, I didn't look at his comics after I drew them, like
yeah, yeah.
who cares? Like who do you think you are, kind of a thing. So I don't know. Although he comes to Red Hook a lot
Does he really?
because
What's he
he
doing there?
plays in a bluegrass band
Right.
with Krista Casano's ex-husband and a couple other people, and he's in Red Hook all the time, and I never see him.
He likes to go to Aki.
Yeah, right. He gotta go meet
He
meet
likes
the
to get an
occupant.
Aki sandwich.
So yeah, I wanted to, and also for people listening, Josh Neufeld and I did a podcast called Scene by Scene with Josh and Dean,
Mhm.
where we break down American Splendor the movie scene by scene. And I think that took like 30 episodes. Plus, we talk about Harvey Pekar, his career, our collaborations with him, us, becoming cartoonists in the 80s and whatnot, and talking about ourselves and our careers. And also, we have a lot of great guests, including the directors of American Splendor the movie and a whole bunch of people. So it's a pretty great podcast. It's I don't think it's finished yet until we get Paul Giamatti. I'd love to get Art Crumb. Uh and
Hope
maybe a
Davis.
couple
Like I know you
Hope
mentioned
Davis,
some
who I've
better.
seen now again on the train.
That's great.
So yeah, Hope Davis would be great. But also unfortunately we didn't get Joyce Brabner. Obviously we didn't get Harvey Pekar.
You
And
could you could
yes, yeah, so
probably
there's a few.
talk Danielle. Is it that was her?
We were going. Guess what? Today we were supposed to release an interview that we were going to do with Danielle, but she had to bail for personal reasons right
Mhm.
now. So we hope to get her in the future.
That's
Um, I'm sure she has tons of great stories.
to be a fly on the wall.
I
Uh,
know.
I
So
have to, you acknowledged Harvey. I have to acknowledge somebody that was a big influence on me. Today is the 80th birthday of Mr. Marv Wolfman.
yes, it is. That's right. Yep.
Eight,
And
eight, God bless him, man.
yep. He was a very important writer and editor of the comics I read growing up. I had an opportunity to hang out with him personally for hours and days in England.
Oh,
I did some show I can't remember now, and I think who was it involved? I forget the. Oh, me and Ben McCool did a comic, which name the title escapes me, but it was for some company called like Shifty Look or something, where they took like Atari type video games and turned them into comics. And we were supposed to do one that then they lost the IP on it, so we had to invent something. So it kind of like didn't even
was this
work.
for Thought Bubble? Was that the show?
not thought bubble, but it was something like that. In fact, it wasn't that good, to be honest.
Okay.
But
Shout
Marv
out to
Wolfman
you,
was
Ben
there,
McCool.
and that's why I got to meet Jim Zub.
Hmm.
And Jim Zub did something that is very rare. We were um, at a very fancy dinner in England because we are otherwise off, way off, like an hour away. Like when you go to a con and it's near the airport and it's not
Yeah,
near
yeah, yeah.
anything cool, that kind of a thing. It was like in a dumpy part of England, which was like, who cares? So we had to like literally travel very far to go. Oh, we're now in London or something. Like anyway. Jim Zub told this incredible story about meeting his wife. That by the end of the story, we were all not just crying but weeping, like sobbing the entire table. And he's such a great storyteller,
I was
like,
really hoping it was like like somehow he like Kaiser Soze, what's that Memento, you guys, and like he was meeting her then, right there,
oh my God, right
and like,
then.
but the way he told the story was like you thought it happened already, but he
And
was
then
literally,
it was happening
yeah,
as it
yeah.
was
That's what
about to happen.
I,
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought that, but like it's just like
Right.
I could see Jim doing that.
Oh, oh, so anyway, I have a thought that I'm going to throw you in public right now, real quick.
Mhm.
But before I get to that, so yeah, so Marv Wolfman, like, and I don't remember the tips now, but he gave me like I asked him about his writing process and all that, and he gave me such great answers and things to think about. And again, I wish I could remember. I probably just absorbed them and probably made them my own. Like I don't even remember, but he was so thoughtful and giving and smart and witty and brilliant.
The one time I met him, Len was still alive,
Mm.
and he and Len had come to the Long Beach Comic Con, and I was sitting there with Ray Anthony Height, and they came over and they were talking to Ray. I guess Ray had met them at some other point, and I was
And
trying to,
Len being Len Wein, everyone.
yes, Len Wein, longtime editor, creator of Swamp Thing, co-creator of Swamp Thing, I should say. Um, Fantastic human being from all accounts. Um, so I was trying to just like get like an intro or like just to say hi, and I was like, "Hey, hey, Marv," and he just like looked at me with this like, and just kept walking.
Why?
I don't know. He just did not like the cut of my jib, man.
That's
And
he.
I don't hold it against him. I don't, like say like, oh, never meet your heroes for that.
Right,
It's not.
right, right,
I have
right,
other,
right,
instances where that's true, but it was just, I was just
right,
get a
right.
word in.
That's hilarious. Well, that happens. That's happened to me. That's happened to all of us. So the thought I had. Now you
Mhm.
remember when I think Matt Major is basically commissioning us maybe to do a
Mhm.
backup, right?
Mhm.
And we were talking about doing a Stray Red Hook story.
Yes.
And we kind of came up with a conceit, or I think you started coming up with something.
Yeah. I started working on it. Yeah.
But it occurred to me, and maybe this won't work, but I'm just throwing it in your lap. You had recently talked about like, oh, maybe the ones that got away that you would like to have written at DC and Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
One of them being Wildcat.
Yeah. Oh, that
Does
leads
it?
to, I just, son of a bitch, we have to talk about this off air. We just gave up. So Matt Major is one of my favorite collaborators. He and I have worked on a couple of different things. Um, he helped me develop Underboss. He is currently drawing The Eyes of Odin, and he's also doing inks on the backup for Stray #3 before it goes to print, which we're only a page away from it, so it'll probably go out this weekend. Um, but Matt is trying to start his own. I got to send you the picture that he sent me today, which is a page I can't. I'm not going to show it on here. But so Matt said, "What would it take to get you and Dean to do a story in the back?" I was like, "I don't know. What kind of story do you want?" He's like, "I don't know. What kind of story do you want to tell?" I was like, "We could. I mean, what's the point of doing a story for a new property that no one knows yet? And if we're going to get eyes on it, let's do our babies. Let's do Stray and let's do Red Hook." So the story we had uh, um, was basically like a charity wrestling match between Stray and Red Hook in Brooklyn, and then we were going to have some hijinks. It's only 8 pages. Dean had I'm sorry, it's only like 5 pages. Excuse me.
Mhm.
It's very short. And
Yep.
Dean had this one shot, not one shot, a cover for a pinup that he wanted to do, in it. And so we were going to do it as the last page, so we can still use it. Funny enough, but this new idea might just have to. I might have to do this one. This is
I,
too good.
I'm just throwing it in your way, just
Yeah,
to,
it's
I
pretty
don't know.
good. Anyway, speaking of
Anyway,
pretty good,
sorry.
no, no,
Um,
that's a happy accident.
oh,
Speaking of
is
pretty
this the
good,
good? Yeah, me too. All right. So,
hey, we got the
um,
same cover too.
yeah. So, well, I just get them from JHU and they mail them to me and they always give me the A cover,
Yeah,
like I never.
that's what I
All
have.
right. So I have a couple of bones to pick on the first story.
Okay, let's before we go into it. It's a couple of weeks old. This is Spider-Man and Superman. This is the Marvel version of the Superman Spider-Man that DC put out. So Spider-Man, since it's being published on Marvel, Spider-Man gets top billing. Superman, when DC did it, got top billing for that one. So
And
this
speaking of 50 years,
what's
speaking
that?
of 50 years, this they met 50 years ago.
That's right.
That's another 50th anniversary. So
So
anyway,
we're looking at we're probably going to do some spoilers. So again, it's a couple of weeks old at this point. I'm sure if you are interested in this book, you probably already picked it up. So we're going to talk about it. So your bones.
all right. Starting off with, I love Brad Meltzer. I've hung out with him. He and my mom talk to each other. He's
That's
the greatest guy.
full stop. That's where the story should end.
I mean, every time he writes a book, I pre-order it and it's going to my mom and she
Yeah.
reads it in like a week, and like they're buds. So they met at Miami Book Fair the couple times I went there. I brought my mom. Anyway, I like the way it begins, and I'm not going to go start showing all the pages. I'm just going to talk about it and
Mhm.
just describe it a little bit, especially for the listeners. Basically, starts off with Spider-Man and Superman in a conundrum. They're underneath a whole bunch of, I don't know, a building of sorts,
Do you know what it
but
is, or do you want me to tell you, or are you just going on first
well,
impression?
ultimately, does it become Venom?
Right. They are trapped inside of the symbiote somehow.
So they're inside what appears to be rubble and or slats of like wall or something. And
They
of course,
mentioned
all
they
it
mentioned
does,
at
it
some point
reminds.
that it's sticky or
Yeah.
something like that. Like it's not.
And at one point they mention it's sticky, so then you're like, there's a hint there.
Mhm.
Um, but that's not my bone. I'm just setting it up, which basically does, all it does is make you think about the famous Steve Ditko
Yes.
Spider-Man underneath the building, trying to get out with the water pipes bursting and everything. It's awesome. And like they're talking and they're hanging out and kind of cracking jokes and then there's like a kryptonite situation because a hobgoblin throws one of his pumpkins that's, I guess, filled with some basic kryptonite in it, and so Superman can't hold up this structure from collapsing, so Spider-Man has to do it. I actually didn't really believe that Spider-Man could hold up this much weight, to be honest. um, but that's not my nitpick because heroes will do what they need to, and then Superman's trying to help out in his humanized form. Suddenly, there's an explosion, and they call each other's name with a bunch of fragments of memories. And then suddenly you see this black ooze, and you're like, oh, okay, Superman's getting covered up with Venom, okay? Which, by the way, also reminded me a little bit of the James Gunn Superman
Mm-hmm.
when he got all covered
By
up
the engineer, yeah.
in the engineer. Now, this I will show this double page spread.
So
And
cool.
you'll notice if you're looking really closely, you're going to start noticing. I can't even see right now. All these other villains.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
Yeah. You got Taskmaster. I'm going to go from left to right.
Yeah.
Taskmaster, Craven, Deathstroke, the Terminator, Brainiac, Doc Ock. Whoops, I was hitting
Electro
Electro, Parasite, Doomsday, Rhino. Then up at the top you have Lex Luthor and
and
Green
and
Goblin, and then
I had to read this comic 3 times, by the way.
I think that's a Mazo right underneath Doctor Octopus. holding Taskmaster's shield, weirdly enough.
Okay, I see. Yeah. So there's this whole explosion, and there's this whole fight scene, and Spider-Man's being attacked by Venom, who has taken Superman hostage, and then Superman starts blasting his lasers through his eyes, and he claps his hands, is able to evaporate Venom off, and then there's this like confrontation where they're going to go. Spider-Man and Superman are going to punch out Luthor and the Goblin, right?
Hmm.
And then there's a cut to 3 weeks later. Before we get to that part, are we to assume, because it's all off camera, that they were fighting all these villains at the same time,
Yeah,
and
of
then they
course.
took care of them in the jump cut?
Yes.
So we are missing. Okay, this is interesting. So bringing up James Gunn again, the way the movie begins, Superman the movie, is that Superman's just had a massive fight with someone who punched him so hard they punched him to, like, was it Antarctica or whatever
Yeah.
the hell his, and then he has to whistle for his dog to go save him, right?
Yes.
And some people, like, that I had conversation with were pissed off. Like, where's the fight scene? And they get to see the fight. Who the hell was? I was like, it doesn't matter. You'll
Right.
find out later. Like, so in a way, we don't get to see, and not that I needed to see more fighting, but we don't get to see like how they dispatched all these other. Well, I guess Superman just can flick them off with his
Not.
finger,
I mean,
but
when you're dealing with a Mazo, you have somebody that can copy like powers, and then you have
okay,
Parasite who can take away powers. So I
okay,
mean, there are some very interesting matchups there that would be great to see, but
right.
we're limited to the constraints of the page count. You know what I
Of
mean?
the page count. So in a way, I'm okay with it, but I have to admit, when I first saw that, and then I see this kind of money shot where they're about to punch out Luthor and the Goblin, there's a jump cut. I'm going, what just happened? And we never hear the rest of that story or
You
see
know
what
what's
happened.
you know
So
what's
you
funny?
assume what happens. You just
It
have to
didn't
assume.
bother me. Like I was like, okay,
To me, it was the severity of the jump cut that
I see.
confused me. I thought that some pages were missing, that my comic had lost some of the rest of the story, but really it's just them kind of voguing, and what Brad Meltzer is saying is, what happens.
Yeah.
Seen this before. We don't need that. Let's cut to a quieter moment where um this threw me off a little bit too, because it took 2 pages to realize, oh, they're walking to a cemetery, Clark Kent and Peter Parker are in their human, whatever civilian guises,
Mm.
are actually going to visit Ben Parker, and then the real point of the story happens here,
Right.
because early on Peter Parker is talking about how what drives him is guilt, and roving reporter Clark Kent surmises, no, actually, you're the product of really good people,
Right.
and the reason why you're good and do all that you do is because of Uncle Ben and Aunt May,
Mm-hmm.
which recontextualizes this idea of guilt,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought that was a beautiful sentiment, and even down to the point where Brad Meltzer has that in Spider-Man's costume, Peter Parker or Spider-Man carries Uncle Ben's watch,
Mm.
and then Peter Parker noticed that in Clark Kent's cape, he has 2 pairs of glasses, reading glasses. One is his fake Clark Kent, Superman guys, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then his human American father, Pa Kent,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and then there's this little meeting where they're gonna have Aunt May come over and have dinner with the Kents, and then you see this quiet moment where they're like bonding, and there's this beautiful little dinner kind of thing. What did you think of this lead story?
I, you know, the nice thing about this book and the other book is it's an embarrassment of riches. Like,
It
you know
absolutely
what I mean?
is.
Like, oh my God, you get to have a Mark Wade story and you get to have a Brad Meltzer story. Like, what did
and
it do to
the
deserve it?
other stories that accompany, like, we'll get to that soon,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
will say this: we've been talking about like bizarre doing, like, indie people doing these comics like
mhm,
Bizarro or
yeah,
Strange
yeah.
Tales. Scratch that. I just want a monthly series like this.
But remember, a couple of weeks ago, we said somebody put out an article, "Are comics now dead?" And they
Right.
pointed to these crossovers as
Yes.
being the reason. Because what is there to say after this? Now,
Right.
I don't say that I agree with him or disagree necessarily with
Right.
the premise of that article, but
Right.
when you take the sum of the Batman, Deadpool, Deadpool, Batman,
Yep.
this and the Superman, Spider-Man, like again, like I look at it and I go, it's not even my birthday yet. Do you know what I mean?
I know. I
Like
mean, it
what did
is a
I do?
gift.
Like
It is a
how did
gift.
I?
And to speak to um sorry, Batman, Deadpool, but Spider-Man, Superman, like
Miles.
miles away,
I
works
mean,
so much better.
even the like the Grant Morrison story, which I enjoyed, just it gets kind of silly, which is great. I love when Grant gets a little silly
Yeah,
because
yeah, of course.
he's not
Of
taking
course.
himself seriously. But the thing is about this opening story by Brad Meltzer and Pepe Larraz and the Mark Wade, I think Dan Mora story are, if you just like this is going to be eventually collected, I'm sure, like in one way or
Sure.
another. And if you just took those two stories and translated them into every language available on Earth
Hmm. Hmm.
and gave them out to every kid on Earth,
Hmm.
what a beautiful story you would tell.
And even out of context, like you just had to describe all those villains in that two-page spread, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And like even if you don't know them at all in another country or whatever, you just know there's a bunch of people that are about to go to town on our two guys, but they're going to take care of business.
Yeah, and the two most recognizable heroes in the world. Like if you
Exactly. I
think of
mean,
any,
honestly, I like whatever about Deadpool. I have no ill will, but like, and I know originally it was Batman and Hulk back in the day,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
But honestly, would it be Batman and Captain America? What do you think it would
It
be?
should be. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily. I mean, if it's Batman and Captain America, it should be Superman and Thor, right? So I think better off doing Batman and Hulk just to have the tradition. Um, which one would I rather read? I think I would rather read Batman and Captain America because uh, actually maybe Batman and Iron Man would be a better fit.
Well, but think about this. What was interesting about Peter Parker and Clark Kent, Spider-Man and Superman, is they're both kind of orphans. They both work in journalism.
Mm.
Like so. I think what would be interesting about what you just said about Iron Man and Batman is, well, they come from riches,
Mhm.
and how they deal with their idea of justice. You know, the Hulk is just to me is a guy that gets the stronger the madder he gets, the stronger he gets.
Right.
Like the end. Like there's a lot you can do with Hulk, okay, but I
Sure.
don't see Batman and Hulk except how is Batman going to fight the
Stop the
Hulk,
Hulk. Yeah.
or stop the Hulk, or whatever, or soothe the Hulk or something. And to me, that's less interesting than like the philosophical differences
Right.
between a Batman and someone else, which is why it actually ratchets up when we go back to Captain America,
Mhm.
because that's America and Batman is Gotham. He's not even gotten past Gotham. He
But
can't
it's not
get to
even.
America.
The thing though that um, when you say it's ideology, so Captain America represents the country, Batman represents fear. You know what I mean? Like, and I mean, you could
No, but
tell,
but he
and you
but a
could tell a
city he
great
does.
story. You know what
No,
I mean?
of
Like about
course, but
fear in America and
well, no,
even
no. I would say
live in it.
this: America versus a city or Lower East Side,
Mhm.
New York. But then Fear, Batman. What is Captain America's
Oh, it would be
attitude?
hope, probably not even like
Hope. It's
patriotism.
hope.
It'd be hope.
See, that's more interesting.
Absolutely.
That's the conversation. That's the tension.
But the
You know.
thing I like about a Batman Iron Man story is you take these two kids that, well, Iron Man wasn't a child, but um, you take a boy who lost his parents as a child and had the comfort of money to set him on a path of vengeance, basically,
Mhm.
And then you have a guy whose hubris in making weapons and selling them to whoever and making his money that way. And
Mm-hmm.
then it comes back to bite him.
Mm-hmm.
You have, you take away the money from both of them. I think right then and there, you figure out who these guys are, and
Absolutely.
it's like, and then you can see like
Absolutely.
similarities, differences, and stuff like that. But again, I think Batman, Captain America is the more selling, like would be a better seller, which I think is why they did Deadpool because Deadpool's so popular and Batman,
Deadpool's just popular, and of course, Batman is always going to be popular. But actually, now let's just think about who would have been a more interesting kind of verses with Deadpool that would make more sense from the DC ranks. That's not Batman, not Superman, not Wonder Woman.
oh,
And then who would, and then we'll ask who would Wonder Woman be? Uh,
that's I see. Wonder Woman, I think, is Captain America, only because they represent the same thing.
you know what?
But again,
That that's really good too,
and
isn't
they
it?
did it in the Batman Deadpool in one of them. I think Terry Dodson drew it.
Right, right.
With Deadpool at DC, I think you have to have. It's not going to be a marquee player. It's going to be like the Creeper or something
I
like
would
that.
say it's gonna, or a villain like Taskmaster or something. Like,
Well, Taskmaster's a Marvel guy, but
oh, sorry, who am I? Deathstroke.
oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's very interesting.
Like,
Deathstroke and Deadpool, yeah, that's very interesting.
I mean,
Um,
hello,
I was
right?
gonna say you could probably get away with a Nightwing Deadpool, but Nightwing doesn't have the weight of a Batman. You know
It's
what I
not
mean?
Martian Man. It's not Green Lantern. It's not nobody from the Justice League.
No,
Like it's
but
it
I
might be
like
a villain. It might be a likable villain. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and the thing is that they're both mercenaries, and it's like, all right, I don't want to write the story. I'm going to write the story here. What am I crazy?
all right.
Both
Going
have a
back to,
contract for the same person, and then they
yeah, right.
so
Going back to Spider-Man, Superman. Oh my God, the next story. It's very simple, but it's so well told and
mhm.
so beautifully drawn. Was it 4 pages? One, two, three, four, 5 pages. It's oh God, it's Dan Slott and Marcos Martin, right?
Mhm.
And what I liked about it is I have never read a Spider Noir story. Sorry,
Neither have I.
guys. But they mashed them up with old school Golden Age Superman.
Mhm.
And even down to the point where, spoiler, and this might have been out in the advertising of the book, is Superman portraying the Spider-Man. Uh, Sorry, this
Yes,
panel right here was
yes, yes,
Amazing Fantasy number 15, right?
correct.
By Jack Kirby, drew that cover for the first Spider-Man story, Amazing Fantasy number 15,
Mhm.
and it's a fun little story, and I love how J. Jonah Jameson looks like Hitler. He does have the Hitler mustache.
Even with his hair part,
It's so wrong.
but
And it's also got a little homage to Norman Rockwell.
yes.
It's so beautifully, and again, 5 pages in and out, boom, told a
Mhm.
little ditty. I want more of these. I want these to keep coming out. Next story. Any thoughts on that?
I I enjoyed it, but I thought it might have been the weaker, which when you have heavyweights and you have a weak story, it doesn't mean it's a bad story. It just means that like, oh, like it's still good. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's still well made. It's still well told. It's just like when you start with Brad Meltzer and Pepe Larraz and like it's just like this emotional thing.
And you're doing 5 pages. I mean, it has a
Right.
beginning, middle, end, and I know what you mean. And I try not to compare, but I know what you mean because it's
Right.
like right after that bigger story, right? But that's what's going to happen whatever you put next to it.
Right.
Any
Exactly.
pick any of these stories, and the same thing's going to happen. But on its own, it's just so beautifully constructed.
Oh,
The
absolutely.
next one's Joe Kelly and Humberto Ramos, who's currently, I believe, drawing the Fantastic Four.
Hmm.
Um, and it's a story between Mary Jane,
No,
no, sorry,
Lana
uh,
Lang.
Lana Lang and Gwen Stacy.
So
And
before
and
before you go into it, just to
yeah,
explain to the reader the context of these two,
Yeah.
instead of Mary Jane and Lois Lane, let's say, Lana Lang was Clark Kent's high school girlfriend. Gwen Stacy was Peter Parker's high school girlfriend. So
Right.
like it's like their former loves instead of their
And early
current.
days. It's
Right.
early days. And they have a chance meeting at the Empire State University in New York, and they're talking about their how men suck because the boys are just stupid. Trying
It's
to
just a fun story. It's just
a
fun. I
fun
mean,
little
again, it's
story.
not like it's not
It's almost
the
like Betty and Veronica talking about Reggie and Archie or something,
exactly.
you know.
It's
And
not earth shattering, but it's
not
just
not at all. It's just
it,
a fun. And then while they're waiting for their significant others to come by, you get to see while they're talking about them, you get to see them in action, young version of them, and then they show up, and yeah, they're always talking about how they're making excuses all the time why they
yeah,
can't hang out, and
yeah.
then they like them because there's obviously something good about these people versus all the other chumps in the world that they're trying to date them.
I
You know?
think what's kind of crazy about this one, not crazy, but like kind of interesting about it, is if you take this story, lift it out, and compare, not compare it, but put it side by side or right after, or right before, I should say, the
Hmm.
Tom King Jim Lee story, which was Lois Lane and Mary Jane.
Right.
It's this one kind of becomes sad. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
inadvertently,
you're right.
it's a
You're
little
right.
sad when you think about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
like it's still like Umberto Ramos cannot draw anything that's not fun.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't think he has a
Yeah.
unfun bone in his fingers.
Right, right. No, he's
That's
he's great.
don't put that on the internet. That's a very terrible thing to say. Anyway,
So the next one,
the next one to me
yeah,
is the icing on the cake that the Matt Fraction and Steve Lieber one was in the other one.
right.
You know what I mean? Like that was
Right,
the Jimmy Olsen Carnage story.
right.
This is amazing for a,
Well, what's crazy about this story, first of all, it stars my favorite character, the Thing,
mhm,
drawn by Gary Frank, one of the best artists in comics,
yeah.
written by Jeff Johns, and it when I read it, I kind of read it twice because it takes giant leaps between panels.
Yeah,
Okay, where
you
like so much is happening and it's probably only 8 pages tops, and I wanted a graphic novel of this.
the thing about this one is there is so much going on in every page and panel with characters that
Yep,
Jeff is, fanboy made good. You know what I mean? He knows all these characters. This
yep.
very first splash page is the Thing versus the Legion of Substitute Heroes. Like not even the Legion of Superheroes, which I believe they show up in this, but it's the Legion of Subs.
I
Like
mean, you definitely it's deep diving. I didn't know who these characters were, Vito.
that's what I mean. Like that's why I'm here, I guess.
Right,
But like
exactly.
it's crazy that like, all right, we know Jeff loves his Legion. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. And then you have like on the next page, you have the Squadron Supreme. You have,
Like
um,
Gary Frank must have been like, "What am I drawing on every panel of
I
every
guarantee you,
page?"
he's like, I'll draw all of it.
And
Like
of course he is, because that's what he does. Like in a way, he reminds me of George Perez in that spirit.
very
Like
much, very
by the
much
way, Spider-Man shows up in one panel.
fighting.
Superman's featured more, and then there's a Miles Morales Spider-Man that shows
Mhm.
up. Then there's version of is it Superboy or Superman punching the Blob?
Yeah, that's the Superboy from Jeff's Teen Titans run.
Okay, and nothing moves the Blob, and all I wanted to see was that fight for 30 pages.
Like you have Eclipso versus the Lizard. You have
Yeah,
Mysterio and Saturn Queen, another obscure, not obscure, but if you know the Legion of Superheroes, like she's a pretty prominent villain. You have the Fantastic Four. You have the Legion of Superheroes, I should say.
right.
Lightning Lass and Timberwolf, both out cold while
Yep.
Superboy's trying to fight. Like
There's
it's
so many little Easter eggs for anybody who knows. And then I was like, wait, what's the story? And apparently there's like a red kryptonite that accesses and exploits anger, and
no,
they
not Red
they
Kryptonite. It's a Red Lantern ring.
sorry, Red Lantern ring that does that, and they somehow are using the Hulk's rage to make everyone mad,
So the
right?
Red Lantern ring, for those that are unaware, I'm sure Dean is as well. In the spectrum of lantern rings, red is anger.
Right.
So you have green for willpower, yellow for fear, uh, blue for hope, uh, violet for love. And there's an indigo one, and I can't remember what it pertains to. There's also black and white. Black is death, white is life. So red, being anger,
Right.
naturally would go to the Hulk. But
And
Mysterio is using it to project.
yeah, all right. Mysterio's predicting, but then everyone's getting all mad and whatnot, except for a small cabal of heroes who turn out to be who are more grounded, let's say,
Mhm,
and don't let anger, including the Thing, which was interesting.
mhm.
Uh, and then they go to fight and try to, stop the Hulk, and it's really Superman who uses who tries to calm him down by being soothing and
The
listening to him.
the Avengers, the movie, Black Widow, with her hand out saying the sun's
Right,
going down.
right,
That's
right.
basically what this is in a different way. Like Superman's not going to, spout poetry, but
Except with the Black Widow, didn't they accuse her of being a boner killer?
that was it. That was episode 69, bro.
There you go. Anyway, and then Superman's because the Thing was going to maybe try to beat up the Hulk, and he realized he used the wrong tactic. And Superman says, "It's not always clobbering time, Ben."
Right.
And then Ben goes to Bruce Banner and brings him donuts. I mean, again, this is truncated big time. Like this is a bigger story.
Yeah, absolutely. The one panel here has Captain America. I'm not entirely sure who he's fighting because they're off panel. But then you have the Thing fighting Bizarro,
Oh
Superman fighting
yeah,
Man
yeah,
Wolf, She-Hulk fighting Titania. Well, I mean, not
yep.
Titania. What is her name? Oh, she's a
Oh, she's a DC character. I
yeah,
don't
she's a
know who that is.
Superboy villain. I can't remember her name now.
Okay, okay.
But like, it's just so much fun. Like, it's just you don't
Look at panel 3 of the next page. Do you see panel 3 of the next page?
the
Do you see there's a fireman putting out fire
yeah,
behind
like yeah.
Superman and the Thing? Like, I could never draw that.
I mean,
I would just be too many like it's too much work.
like
But he does it effortlessly, you
the
know?
funny thing is, like, you point that out, and then like if you look at Superman in the middle panel, there's another shot of the fire. It's like
Yep.
the awareness of knowing that there's stuff going on back there. Do you
And
know?
like carrying a small child that they saved, obviously,
Mhm.
from that window. Oh, you know what? I think he's being handed the kid in panel 3, and then he's oh my God, it's unbelievable. Like these are masters of storytelling, you know?
Yeah.
So the next story, Ghosting, I have to admit, and this is Louise Simonson and Todd Noir, I'm not as familiar with its steel
Mhm.
as I am of the Hobgoblin, although I don't know who the Hobgoblin is these days. So I don't know when this story is supposed to take place.
Right.
And it has to do with like steel dust and hammers, right?
Right.
And then like spoiler, can we say the spoiler?
Yeah.
Who shows up? Thor shows up, and there's a little kind of hammer joke, and probably even a wink to Walt Simonson,
Yeah.
because Louis Simonson. But what did you think of this? I thought it was good.
Again,
Again, I didn't have
like
as much of a attachment to the Steel character,
what
or
this
even Hobgoblin.
this specific issue, probably more so than the DC one, is there are these like emotional highs, and then there's like this kind of cool down period. You know what I mean?
Sure,
And
sure.
that's what the Dan Slott one was, and that's what this one is. Like it's kind of
Right,
a cool,
right, right.
you know.
Yeah.
This next one is just fun. Again, it's
Remarkable
Spider,
Stephanie Phillips, Phil
Ghost
Noto.
Spider with Supergirl.
Yeah, it's a yeah, Ghost Spider, Supergirl. It's a fun little story. Um, it's like a getting to know you kind of thing, or getting to know your attitude, or
And
through a fight with a villain,
what I like about it is that like they both wanted to meet the other one. Like
Right,
Ghost Spider
right,
wanted to meet Superman, Supergirl wanted to meet Spider-Man. Like
right,
it's kind
right,
of like this story could be happening while the main story is happening.
right,
You know what I
right.
mean?
Oh, and then the next one is a Miles Morales story, right?
By Brian Michael Bendis and Sarah Pacelli, who did work on Ultimate Spider-Man after after Mark Bagley left, I believe.
Oh, okay. and then Superman shows up, and I got to admit, I was reading this late last night so I could talk to you about it, and I kind of don't remember this story. Oh, Dormammu and Brainiac show up.
Mhm.
Oh, and it's another one of those we don't see how it ends.
The one thing I should point out about this is that Superman is wearing his new 52 costume. So this means this is post Flashpoint, pre metal, DC metal and death metal. So like
I
before it
don't
goes
even know what
back
you're
to
talking about. I don't
just
even know what you're talking about, Vito.
it's for the people that are watching, not
It's
for
for
you.
the kids. Yeah, it's kind of like a. Well, what's funny is like he'll say Superman, and he goes, "How can I help you?" And it's almost like even if they've never met, they know each other in
Mhm.
these stories, or they've met
That goes for
before.
everybody.
And there's never a how we met. It's
Mhm.
already they've already met. They already know
Mhm.
each other. And I love that. It cuts out a lot of that kind of story stuff.
This
Um,
next
yeah.
story is possibly one of the most underrated ones in the entire book. Like this.
Jason Aaron is a master writer. He writes in such a nuanced way.
Mhm.
And basically, I mean, he gives props to a cancer patient.
Yeah.
He makes it that, and it even ends with that great line. Uh, I'm just going to read the last four captions.
Okay.
Over the years to come, many tales will be told of this day, stories that pass into legend, of how the greatest heroes of Midgard won the War of the Realms, led by an immortal Amazon with a magic lasso and the godly power of the earth itself, and a 90-pound cancer patient swinging a hammer. And
This
it's Wonder Woman and, Jane Foster as Thor,
the
you know?
thing about this one that like I said, I think it's possibly the most underrated is that his handle on both characters, like you don't know, there's no lead character in this. It's so
Right.
split down the middle. And then the money shot of uh Darkseid holding the
Called the
light
all
blade,
black, the anti-life blade. Sorry.
well, which is that blade that uh curse not curse from Thor, the guy that the God Killer.
Right, right,
That was his blade. So like it's
right.
just good God, like
And it's like an Avengers Assemble, but it's DC and Marvel Assemble at the end there, right? And like it's just he's such a great writer. I've loved Jason Aaron since Scout, which is a masterpiece. Uh Sometimes when I see him at Comic Cons, I say, "Man, I really want to work with you someday." And he goes, "We're going to do that." So he's always encouraging and really nice. And then it ends with one of those days by Jeff Loeb and Jim Chung. And it's basically, I think, a sad Spider-Man on what I think is the edge of the Brooklyn Bridge,
yeah.
and Superman, and he's grieving, right?
Yeah, I think
And
he's remembering Gwen, you know.
right, and then I think Superman cracks a joke or something. Uh, and
You
I
don't
guess
get
he
a gold
helps
medal for best grief. That sounds like something you would tell me, the hero
exactly.
of comics.
Yeah, like he kind of gives him a little pep talk. And again, it's just a two-pager. It's a
Mhm.
simple little kind of Harvey Picar to bring it around to American Splendor. Little non-superhero moment, except the fact that a man can fly.
It's it's not the best of
No,
of the things in this. Like I said, it's an embarrassment of riches though. Like you can't even your
that exactly.
not best is still really, really good.
And it kind of begins with a Superman Spider-Man and ends with a Superman
Yeah.
Spider-Man in that way because we have these other little mashups. And again, listen, I still think Mark Waid and Dan Mora, like, get the gold medal,
Yeah.
for their story. But that was a lot of fun. I do wish that these happened more often. I understand that they're special. Maybe after a while they would just become duds,
I
It's
think there's
hard.
one coming out in August. I don't
Okay.
know exactly. My From what I remember last, I heard it was Batman and Thor, which doesn't make thematic sense, but
At
okay,
all.
I'll take whatever you give me at this point. Let's see who's doing it.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah.
And
Totally.
that's the other thing too is shout out to the editors of both. of all four of these projects, I should say, because putting together a team for something like this, obviously somebody's probably like Jeff is probably like, I want to work with Gary. I work with Gary all the time. You know,
Right.
same thing with Mark. Dan and he already have a working relationship. So I would imagine there's a little bit of corralling and just like, oh, we got to work this around our schedule, blah, blah, blah. And then
Yep.
somebody like Louise Simonson and Todd Knock, who um, it seems like they've worked before, like they seem, like the names, like when you put them
I
together,
mean, I like Todd Knock fine enough, but I would love to have seen June Brigman.
that would have been nice.
You know,
Or, I hate to say it, not to
Walt
take it.
Simonson,
Yeah, like it would be
the
great.
Simonsons, man. Yeah,
They did X Factor, like why not? So, but again,
exactly.
like the editors and the assistant editors should also get credit for these books because putting together these
Oh
books
yeah.
is not easy, not at all.
Nope. Nope. No, I think it was what, $8 or something?
Yeah,
Totally worth it.
7.99. Yeah,
Totally worth
totally
it.
worth it.
And so, adding to our list of we took over Marvel and DC. So we have a monthly Marvel Comics Presents, that does this kind of stuff. You have two anthologies that are regular that rotate 2 or 3 stories with characters. We have an indie book. We have exclusive indie people doing their spin, non-canon stories. And then you have specials like this,
Mhm.
like, I don't know, which actually segues, if I think about it, it's not considered an annual proper,
Right.
right? But do we remember annuals, right? Where you have your series and then annuals, and you and I watched what I consider to be an annual. But all right, so
Number one, before we say
mhm,
anything,
mhm.
so short. Could have been so much longer. I mean, I think it's the perfect length to tease. It gives you enough, and then it's just like, come on, like I need more.
Well, so I'm assuming you liked it.
I enjoyed it. Like it. Yeah, I'd say I like it. I didn't love it, and I don't know that I expected to love it. Maybe I did a little bit, in light of Daredevil. Even though
So
I'm not rooting for Daredevil, but
what we're talking about is Punisher: The Last Kill.
one last kill.
One Last Kill. Sorry. And one thing that is not fair, although I don't think it would have helped, is that the sound mix was terrible when I watched it
I
last
didn't
night,
notice.
to the point where I looked up online and everybody was having trouble with the sound mix.
Hmm.
And normally, if let's say you can do 100, 0 to 100 on volume, normally on my television is about 30, and it can go up to 40 or 50 depending on if it's an old movie or something.
Mhm.
I had to get this up to 80 or 90
Couldn't have.
to hear whatever they were muttering
Mhm.
sometimes. Okay. I came to loathe this movie.
Mhm. Well,
I
this one
think
shot. Yeah.
this one shot or whatever it is, which by the way is like an annual, whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
but not enough, like you said, to justify it to be an annual. So I don't even know if there's anything to spoil because basically it's the
I
Punisher,
mean,
Frank Castle.
let's keep in mind this just came out. Today is Wednesday, the 13th. It came out yesterday, I believe, the
Right,
12th.
right.
So it's one day old. By the time people watch this and listen, it has been on TV or on.
Plot wise, there's not a lot of plot, and I don't think there's, like, I'm spoiling much except to say that he spends the first half of the episode in a coma of sorts, and then the second half he just kills. Okay.
It's it is the most. I don't think it's the best portrayal of whatever type of PTSD he's going through, but there's a psychosis happening that
Well,
he seems to be losing his mind.
so he's losing his mind to the point where, and I will spoil a couple of things because I was assuming one thing and then realizing no, actually. And then when I realized no, actually, I was like, this is why it's bad. So I would like to say that clearly the producers were doing a mashup of John Wick and The Purge.
Yeah, you can also add the raid
The Raid is, yep, totally.
and which is also kind of a stealing from the raid, the Judge
Right.
Dredd Carl Urban movie.
Right, right. So
And what
in
I'm saying is that, like, first of all, the Punisher.
because of the maze of that. First of all, where okay, were we in New York?
Yeah, it said Myrtle Avenue on one of the street
All right,
signs.
so we're in New York, Brooklyn, right?
Yeah,
And we're in a part of Brooklyn that at first I thought because he's walking around, the Punisher is walking around a lot of violence and doing nothing.
nothing.
Okay, and I'm thinking, oh, that's an interesting idea. It's either that he's decided I quit, right? And then he's going to go. And then I had a really good thought that I'll
Okay.
share later. And he goes to a cemetery to visit his family where he's going to off himself. And then he has a vision of his family and especially his daughter who kind of waves at him. So he decides to not kill himself and go back. But he is basically, they've stated in it that he has dispatched the people who killed his family, basically,
Yes.
right? His
You're like,
family,
one of
mafia
the
family.
themes that keeps coming up in the early part of this is, all right, you're done. What now?
You're
Like,
done what now,
like
right?
he
So
keeps
who
seeing
are
some
you
of
now?
the,
What's your purpose?
yeah, he keeps seeing some of the Marines he served with, and they're kind of like taunting, you're a Marine, you don't stop, that
And
kind
he's and so they're establishing that he's seeing people that are not there and he's being haunted or whatever by visions and all that. So when he's walking down the street in Brooklyn and it's basically the purge, I'm like, wait, does he see daily life as being people just raping and murdering each other all around each other while cop cars just stroll by and do nothing?
and then
Or is
they
that
get,
actually happening in that part of Brooklyn?
and the cop car gets set on fire. Well, this is what I was asking you. I have not finished Daredevil yet, so I don't know how New York
Nothing.
is set.
No,
You know
no,
what I mean? So,
no.
because if I were to guess, I
Mm-hmm.
would guess, oh, there must be a power vacuum in New York, and
That happens in Daredevil,
right.
but it
So,
it it resolves itself. What's
okay.
happening in Punisher is like the Purge almost,
Mhm, mhm.
where anybody can do what the fuck they want for no rhyme or reason. I never like it when four guys just decide to. So the John Wick part is that a little bit of a spoiler is the dog a dog gets killed
Yeah,
early on for no reason, and then a price is put on Punisher's head at a certain time, a bounty, which is John Wick.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
the purge is that it seems like anybody can do what they want and murder people because cops are not there to do anything about it.
It's weird because you're told that at a certain time, Manucci's contract will start on Frank
This is
Castle.
the mafia matriarch. Yeah.
Yes,
The surviving matriarch of this
he
mafia
killed her
family that
entire
that that
family.
the Punisher killed.
Uh, but there's a point where like he's being attacked, like he's almost set on fire, etc. And then he dispatches a couple of guys, and then he gets out to a balcony and he looks across the way, and there are people fighting and killing each other across the way that have nothing to do with Frank.
Dude,
That's where your purge comes.
half the
Yeah,
movie is people killing each other without having to do with Frank.
right.
So I was confused right out the gate with okay, so they beat up an old black man, steal his red hat, and kill his dog, which becomes a full circle
Hey,
thing.
hey, show some respect. That's a U.S. Marine Corps hat he was
Oh,
wearing.
sorry about that.
That's I think that
I,
plays a
I
part.
didn't, yeah, that
You know what
does
I mean?
play.
Because Frank was a
But
Marine.
in some ways, what I like about it, or what the attempt was to be a very very simple story.
Oh,
Okay,
it's yeah, it's definitely that.
and then so they could feature all the mayhem that they shot and all the gory, disgusting, fucked up, fighting and stabbing and shooting, the amount of people he kills in this hour is unbelievable. Okay. But then
And
there's John Wick, like
yeah,
same thing. What I thought it did was completely undermine everything that they had done to the Punisher up to date, which was if you saw season one of Punisher,
mhm,
I remember being hesitant because I thought, oh, it's just going to be a psycho that's going to kill everybody, for petty crimes or big and small. And basically, it's kind of like that. But then, as the series moved on, he grows on you, and you realize the tragedy of him, and
mhm,
he plays him as he's horrified.
yeah,
Like this is horrible what his purpose has become, right? And then he becomes like, and then Karen Page is showing some love for him throughout the Daredevil Punisher stories. And now I think she showed up or she didn't show up. I don't know. I don't even remember now how that if
She
that was a
she says she says I'm here, but then she disappears. She's
and
not.
then right. Okay. So but so he's having these moments and stuff. And I thought that was good or that could work. But ultimately I thought, oh, and then it ends. He's a Punisher that's gonna be in Spider-Man, the next Spider-Man,
Hmm.
whatever. I thought that they completely undermined because it just became like I got nothing to do or say, and meanwhile, I'm living in a world right now where everyone is just killing each other. They're
Hmm.
literally raping and putting each other on fire. And the deli guy, like I go to the Akiway,
Hmm.
and one of the things that's great about the Akiway, whenever I go in there, I have to get down the block to get inside it because of the projects and all the stuff that's going on in the chaos of the world. But
Hmm.
once I'm inside the Akiway, I'm safe.
Hmm.
We're all safe. The good guys, the bad guys, the cops, the civilians, the criminals. We need the Aki way to eat
Hmm.
and to feed ourselves and get our stuff. So like it's like it reminds me of Wohop when I go to Wohop late at night, and there'd be like mafia, criminals, gangsters, cops, all types of people. But there was like an embargo of like we're not going to fuck with each other down here in the basement of Wohop. We're not going to fuck with each other at the Aki way either, you know.
Hmm.
So there's a deli or restaurant where he goes and gets coffee, okay, but like, and then the guy, so there's a little bit of a moment where the guy was a daughter, and then maybe the daughter is looking at Punisher as a hero, not a father figure, but someone to make a connection with. And so he's kind of reconnecting because he lost his daughter, so
Hmm.
here's a daughter of sorts, and meanwhile the streets, I guess no one needs to eat at the places you buy food at because they're just beating them up too.
Do you know what there's a subtle, it's not subtle in this, but there's a subtle thing that happens when you're a parent. When you hear somebody say daddy or mommy and you flinch and you look because you don't know if it's your kid or not. And I think that's something that they were trying to do here because he's kind of spurred into action whenever he hears daddy. And it's either his son or the boy across the way
Sure.
or his
like
daughter.
like it's a Pavlovian response to like
Exactly.
protect. Like the
Speaking of
minute he
Pavlovian,
hears
I could do without John Bernthal. Polka.
and and when they finally put on the Punisher music song and it's like that hardcore kind of thing, I'm like, oh my god, like this is definitely for the fans. Anyway, but to me, I thought ultimately what pissed me off, and I'm not a super fan of the Punisher, but I do respect what John Barenthal and Marvel Studios are trying to do with this character, which is a hard thing to do. I kind of was wondering what would Jerry Conway think of this,
Mm.
you know, and not because he's necessarily been reappropriated to be like an ICE agent or whatever, right? But like, is this the character he imagined to be going through this kind of scenario in this way? But yeah, maybe in terms of the PTSD part and like trying to reconcile what his purpose is, but he is living in a world that I kept thinking, is that his? Does he think this is happening or is it really happening? And I realized it's really happening.
It has to be.
And I didn't understand how this could be possible in Brooklyn, New York. That's all. That threw me off so badly.
Do you
It didn't make sense.
I'm going to ask a really weird question. I don't know how I can phrase this any better, but obviously these movies, especially the MCU Marvel movies, are heightened reality,
Yes.
as all
As
superhero,
you'll see toward the end of Daredevil.
right,
Yes.
as all
Absolutely.
superhero anything is, it's heightened reality. Um, do you find yourself watching something like this or Daredevil or Wonder Man, which I haven't watched, but
It's the best one, Vito.
I hear really good things, so I'm going to
It's
be
great.
watching it as soon as I'm done with Daredevil. But do you find yourself going, when did they lose the plot on what they were trying to build? You know what I mean? And I mean, you could say after Endgame, there's just a lot of like floating pieces that they're trying to just coalesce. But it's hard to say exactly because like it's very the Disney version of the Marvel universe has had some really good moments and had some really shitty, just bad takes.
Well,
And I don't know
sure.
that pertains to this
I,
conversation
I, I,
necessarily.
I don't know, except that I'm so vexed by them trying to create a space that is just Wild West, and I can do that. If you took me further away, maybe there's a little Wild West happening, and that's what they're trying to do. But it was so Wild West that it didn't even make any sense. And then I'm thinking, yeah, you know what? Don't be the Punisher, Punisher. This is how people are gonna act. Fuck them. Fuck society.
You should move, Punisher. Get out of the project.
But there was a moment in that made me want to.
And time out. In the project, they got 2 floors. Like that was crazy to me. Like
Yeah,
I'll move to the project.
exactly. No, and that seemed like that was in another, like in like another country, that space. I didn't know where that was. But so there's a moment when he has a gun to his head. You're like, okay, he's not going to kill himself because there has to be more of this. It's 50 minutes long. But what it made me think was I wanted to have a character, and I didn't think it could work with the Coney because she's basically reconciled with her son, but they have their differences. The Red Hook, the Coney, and the Red Hook. But it made me think like spooking yourself so hard, meaning this. I wanted the scenario to be more like, I can't remember what my daughter looks like. I can't remember my son's voice. I can't remember my wife anymore. I can't remember because I'm so traumatized, right? And I need to see them again. I need to hear them again, right? That's not what was happening here. He's just has memories of them and is freaking out because he's lost them. But I took it in my brain. What I would have done is I can't remember them anymore. And the only way I can remember them is if I put a gun to my head and I'm about to squeeze the trigger, and my death forces the memory to come back alive. And then it forces them to come in, and I can see them again, and I can hear them again.
Do you know what
right at the second before I'm going to kill myself?
Do you know what I would have done with this show, this episode, whatever, one shot? I would have maybe not like have like the question kind of face where there's no features or anything, but I would have like put a blur on all those memories except for when they were bloody.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
and the horror of that's your last memory of them.
I can't remember them happy. I can only remember them dying.
Right.
And that's driving me insane.
Right. That's good. That's a good note. I mean, I think so what I'm saying is what I felt like is sometimes I'll watch a movie. Okay, I'll use this as an example. We have talked about Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Yes.
Which I hate because he tried to present like how Michael Myers grew up in a very shitty, horrific family,
right?
Which
like
makes no sense to me, to the point where like, okay, I guess he becomes Michael, the Shape from this. But why are they even acting like this? Like, it's just shitty writing, like, I'm a horrible person. Pass me the pork chop, you little piece of shit. Like, I'm going to punch you in the head. If you like, what is that? Like, I'm sure that there are people who have lives like that, but you need to give it more context. And I felt like the world that Frank Castle, or the neighborhood he was living in, was the worst neighborhood that anybody could ever live in.
Like,
right?
why did he move there in the first place?
It's like, what exactly? And like it didn't make any like that took me out so much that everything else they tried to do was shaded by this absurd space that he walked through. It was like hell.
Yeah. Let me ask you this question: if this story were set in the 1970s, would you have been more okay with it?
The way they're acting?
Yeah.
Then you'd have Huggy Bear, and you'd have pimps, and like Pose, and like you got Michelle, what's her name? Who played Lieutenant Uhura, like
Jill Nichols.
Getting her bitches ready for the Johns, and like it would actually make more sense. Yes, actually,
that's what I mean.
When the Punisher was invented. Yes,
I think again, I'm not trying to apologize for anybody or make anybody make decisions for anybody, but I think there's an aesthetic that they're trying to get to, but also think about it in the sense that he's desensitized to the violence around him because of the violence he's brought upon the earth.
Absolutely. Like that to me would make more sense. It would have made more because he's walking down the street and everyone around him is being horrible.
And
That to me was the oh, that's what he sees. That's not there. That can't be there. That's what he's that the world is just horror, right? Because he's broken or whatever. And that's just he just sees everybody at least having the potential of being monstrous, right?
right.
But if he was just walking down the street and he had made friends with the guy at the coffee place, and there's the little girl, and then like there's the ex-marine or whatever or something, but then there's a situation that happens, and normally he would jump in and do something about it, but he decides to not do something about it. That would have been smarter because then you're like he's actively making a decision to not partake in something,
Keep,
versus that it's all around him all the time. So I'm now desensitized. Who gives a shit?
well, let's keep in mind, number one, I don't think the Punisher as a character is an aspirational character, meaning he's not a hero.
No,
Uh,
he's not.
you know what I mean? Like, I think
Right.
that in some ways we're trying to put heroic traits on him that just don't work
Well, but
inherently with the
except
character.
well, except that he's trying to be a hero.
And
He
that's
thinks
the
he's
and that's the crazy thing is that like um Punisher grunting whenever somebody says thank you, after they like after they save their family. The other thing I noticed is that in
John
every
Barenthal's trying to get his writing credit. Sorry.
yeah, in every Punisher adaptation for film, going back to the Dolph Lundgren one, I believe, like you can check me on this. Every version always shows the Punisher trying to relate to normal people
Right.
somewhere or another. He's
Right.
like Thomas Jane one. He's got neighbors in the apartment building.
Right.
This one, he's got neighbors in the apartment building. Um,
Right.
like I, there's nothing wrong with the Punisher being a hermit, living in a
Right.
cage, of his
Right.
own making and stuff. Like
Right.
he's not human, Like at some point, like I
Right.
think that's the beauty of the Garth Ennis run and Garth Ennis Steve Dillon run on Punisher is that they recognize that this guy's humanity has gone out the window the second his family was murdered.
Yeah.
He's
My favorite actually is the Garth Ennis. As much as I love the Steve Dillon, Garth Ennis Punishers, I think my favorite might be the one shot Garth Ennis and uh, Richard Corbin.
Mhm. Oh, the
You ever
end.
see that?
Yeah,
The end.
yeah, it's great. It's perfect for the character too. And I think, you know, going back to what I'm saying is that he's in a cage in that one. Like he's like underground somewhere, and then he comes,
Yeah.
see what the world has become. It, humanizing the Punisher is a very slippery slope, I think, and I think that's what a lot of people in these Disney shows and the movies. I guarantee you that's what's going to like. They're going to make Frank tell a joke
Mm.
in Spider-Man, like, and it's like,
Oh, of course you're gonna tell a joke
you
because
know what I
there's
mean?
no
Like
way
it's,
that this 50 minutes we watch is never going to be in Spider-Man.
but do you know what I
And
mean?
actually,
Like,
that's how it ends. It ends with him. Well, except you know what bothers me, and as you should. Sorry, but I'm not going to give all the story away. But at the end, he does kill someone. Uh, and I would have killed him too because of what the guy did. But I'm not. There's something I know that that's wrong. In
mhm,
a way. So it's not like how Wolverine used to kill, and then he like now cuts in a very surgical way where you can survive his attack. So
joy.
he's not killing anymore. Like Punisher should always be a guy that kills. Like he shouldn't be shooting blanks or purposely shooting you in a area
Or
where
rubber
like
bullets or something.
or something like that. Like he's fucked up. And
Right.
and it's hard to team up with him because he's fucked up.
Um, I did want to point out that, in that beginning PTSD-ish section of the show, I said that he was desensitized to the violence around him, and he's not when you think about it, because there's a point where he's like standing in the middle of the road, which how do you not get hit by a car, but whatever, and he's
Mm.
looking around, and like the camera does kind of like a
Yeah, I
pan
remember that.
him.
I remember that.
So he's fully aware of what's going on behind him. He's actively choosing not to act. And
Right.
again, he's not a hero. That's fine. That is
Right.
within character for him not to act. Let them kill
Right.
each other. I don't give a shit.
Right.
That's fine.
You know, I didn't think of it like that, that he is watching, let them wipe themselves out. But like I said, my only issue with that, and I love that about, that's a great note. Like,
Mhm.
let them take care of each other. I don't have to
Right.
waste my fucking time. I don't have to waste a bullet on them.
Mhm.
My problem is that it was so nihilistic, that neighborhood,
Oh yeah. Oh
that I
yeah.
couldn't believe the neighborhood, and it reeked of poor writing to me.
Mhm.
Like, again, you have situations where someone's trying to like vie for jockey for pole position and own the neighborhood or whatever the hell. But the fact that everyone, and now they're just destroying everywhere where they eat. I what's the purpose of it
Right.
except pure nihilism? And let's just destroy. Then you might as well be, Mad Max Fury Road. You know what I'm saying?
There is an argument to be made that by the Punisher killing that family, because that was their restaurant, remember, and the restaurant's all boarded up,
Right.
that the Punisher killed that neighborhood.
Right. That's a good argument.
There's an argument to be made that says that that restaurant, even though it was a front for mob activity and stuff,
It created anarchy.
there's a lively area. There were people coming there. There's people,
There was
bringing
an ecosystem. Yeah,
right.
there's an
And I'm not
ecosystem.
saying that, um, what he did was wrong or right because, the ethics of it is whatever you want it to be for the Punisher. But the the fact that we saw the restaurant boarded up and shuttered at the very first frame of the show, maybe not the first, but like in that opening before he
Yeah.
shows up. Then we see it in a livelier time when he guns down the kid
Right.
and everybody there. There's an argument to be made that this is his fault.
Yeah.
That neighborhood is his penance. That
Does she say that in the wheelchair when she confronts
she
him?
might, but I think it's
Because again, the
I
the
think it's
sound
more
mix.
I think it's more me inferring than she implied.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
it's just like again, like I'm thinking of it critically in a kind of like uh,
Right.
metatextual way and stuff. And I'm
Right.
thinking, you know what?
Right.
What you're saying is correct. That neighborhood kind of can't exist in a modern
It
world.
doesn't exist in New York City, and because Marvel is known for setting their heroes in real spaces, that was an unreal space to me. I mean,
But
again, if you told me it was just like 1 week and this is a bad week and it just went crazy, but that wasn't the context at
right.
all. It
And then
just is what it is.
I think you said at some point something like, "This is his hell." And
Right.
again, if we make that assumption from him killing that family to this, it's a hell of his own making.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, maybe he has to walk around this to do his penance and stuff.
And again,
A
us
little
talking about it, I feel like those would be the notes I would have given edits and maybe a couple of reshoots or recontextualizing.
right.
I think it would have been a smarter, better, more emotionally pleasing versus I'm in a coma. I don't know who the fuck I am. I'm seeing visions, everybody. It's hell outside and I don't give a fuck until they come after me. Now I got to, I guess, I guess my daughter waved at me. That means to stay alive. So I got to stay alive
Do
somehow.
you know what I find to be one of the most interesting pieces of dialogue? And it stayed with me throughout the entire thing. It was at the end with the old man. The old man tells him that he he didn't. He told him that he took his hat or something like
Right.
that's my hat or whatever. And so Frank gets the hat back and stuff and like scares the punk away. And then the old man says, and this is the one that stayed with me. He goes, "That's not all he took from me." And that's when Frank throws the knife and then he eventually shoots the guy and then kills him.
That's right.
And I think that piece of dialogue is so it's such a it's kind of subtle, but it's not necessarily a hammer against a nail. Like it's not like like
Mm-hmm.
there's something about that one line. That's not all he took from me to spurn him into action at that point. He's in broad daylight wearing Punisher gear. We just finished the anti-vigilante task force that was looking for him, that he escaped from Wilson Fisk. He's like in hiding essentially, and
Right.
wearing his Punisher gear in broad daylight.
He's like a flag of punishment,
It's
like
crazy. Like there's something I don't think I'm going to say this, and I mean no disrespect, but it's going to sound disrespectful. I don't think the makers of this show, Bernthal included, are smart enough to have gotten that subtext from that one line. Like
hmm.
that line is just everything to me in that.
Oh, it's great. I love a subtle. I love like what's deceptively simple,
Yeah.
like, but that's very loaded, and yeah. So I don't know, man. I don't.
I think the biggest mistake is that this leads into a Brand New Day and not
Right,
into a Punisher series because it doesn't.
right.
The logic jump is a little weird. You know
He
what I
needs to get, and maybe we'll see there if there's a logical version of
mean?
him
Because
that makes.
the breakdowns of the trailer that I've seen in talking about Frank and in Spider-Man in the Spider-Man movie, Frank
Right,
is trying to rescue a girl who may or may not be Jean Grey. I don't.
right,
And there's a part where he's shooting, getting ready to shoot at Spider-Man. Spider-Man webs the gun or something like that, and
hmm, hmm,
and
hmm.
it's like it's these deliberate things. And again, it's a Spider-Man movie. It's these
Right,
deliberate things where Spider-Man's trying to prevent violence from escalating.
right.
So we just stopped watching Frank escalate. You know what I mean? And now we're just going to sit through a 2 hour movie where he's just like babysitting a girl.
Yeah,
It's a weird jump, you know?
it is a weird jump, but I mean, I think what they're trying to do is get him in the costume.
Yeah, yeah, no,
How we went
that's
from A to
100%.
B, and there's your 50 minutes, and we're gonna make sure we're gonna give you a lot of good violence. But the violence, even so, is just as I get older, it's harder for me to watch that stuff. You know,
I um I don't think I've ever seen a man stabbed in the bicep before.
oh, when he was killing that dude with a pen,
No, like not even that one. That was rough. But like he stabbed a guy in the bicep twice in this.
yeah, yeah, no, I saw,
Craziest thing I've ever
yeah,
seen.
yeah, yes, and like, how the fuck do they shoot that? Is that all green screen? Like, are they adding it
I,
later?
I
Like,
don't know, man.
how the
Like,
hell
I
they
mean,
do that?
I imagine they add the thing, like whatever the implement is, like the
Points
knife or whatever.
and
It's just doing
blood and
that, and like,
Jesus Christ, it's insane. All right, well, listen, I think we're running overtime. I thought we might talk
but
about one more topic, but
God,
the Kickstarter one,
I feel we need to save that for next week. It's a
yeah,
big deal, and
I think it's still
it
unraveling. And in fact,
definitely,
I put a call into Kickstarter, my guy at Kickstarter,
and
to
it.
ask him
I
about
was
it.
gonna say it definitely impacts you, especially based on your last, based on
Yeah,
Anti-Map.
yeah,
Um, it's I'll tease it a little bit for next week just so we are all on the same page, and then we can all kind of do our research and then come back next week and talk about
yeah,
it. But Kickstarter's uh, payment processing company, Stripe, which you've probably seen on a bunch of different things that you've paid online, they have handed down these terms of service that have effectively killed adult content on Kickstarter for especially comics, like visual representation, whether it be photographs. There have been like coffee table books of nudes and stuff like that, which are probably not going to happen anymore. A lot of comic books that are very successful on Kickstarter have been explicit with sex and nudity. Those are now there are some that are being having their funding retroactively pulled. It's a little again like I want to do a little more research on this because it begs a very informed conversation, especially
well,
with all the stuff that you've put out.
right. I mean, it's basically the idea of censoring. Well, is it censoring campaigns or worse, censoring the content?
It feels like it's a little of both, but again, I want to do a little more
Like,
reading.
I don't care if, like, oh, I mean, listen, if you have a not safe for work project, then put it under the button we have to click on 18 or older. And I'm not a cop in your house if James like decides to play pretend and steal your credit card and whatever, like that's your house, you know. But then Kickstarter's free and clear because you pressed the button that said you were
Right,
whatever, right?
right.
But like if they're like, no, they're um in cahoots and trying to do this puritanical thing, then Kickstarter is over. It's
I,
done.
it's
And then
crazy.
other platforms like Zoop will pick it up now because you mentioned Stripe, which is like a way you deal with payments, Visa, MasterCard, whatever. If they're going to control what we can buy, this is a whole other conversation. But it can't happen because I'll say this. You might have some puritanical religious, extreme religious people saying, hey, you can't do that, you can't allow this sales of this stuff. Trust me, companies want your money no matter
Mhm.
how. So
That's how
money will
capitalism
prevail.
works.
That's how capitalism works. So,
I would encourage everyone to, while we're compiling this information mentally over the next week, I would encourage everyone to look up who invested in Stripe. You'll find some very interesting names. I know who they are. I want everyone to be on the
oh,
same page.
I want to know. I want you
Uh,
to tell me.
I'll tell you
Is
right
what-
after we get off the phone.
Did you have any other topics, real
That was
quick?
it.
Okay.
I'm tapped. But thank you everyone for watching and listening. I want to remind everyone that we are taking donations to upgrade our equipment. You can click on the link below. We also have t-shirts for sale that will also go towards funding new equipment for both of us. T-shirts are really cool. Everybody likes wearing t-shirts in the summer. Summer's here. And they're black and white. You can wear them with anything. You can wear them with jeans. You can wear them with a suit. You can wear them with a skirt. You can wear them with leotards. Black t-shirts, all good. Um, Thank you everyone for checking us out. Thank you everyone for backing uh, Real Life Comics, only in New York. We're still taking late pledges on that. We're going to be running a Vagabond through Zion Studios, Vagabond anthology that you'll see me talking about lately. Dean, you got any shows coming up in the next week or so?
No, but I think I'm going to be going to Yado, the Artist Writers Retreat in Saratoga Springs, New York, from May 29th through June 26th.
For your birthday? Come on, man. I
I
got
know.
my annual call.
Well, I'll get the call at least. Thank you. So, yeah, I know. And I'm going to be around people that don't know me, so I won't be having a birthday, I don't think. So it's all right. It's only 59.
We're gonna be 59
Yeah.
and nobody
No,
cares.
I'm going to do the Patton Oswalt. I'm going to just celebrate the zeros if I get
There you
there.
go. That's a good
You know,
policy to have. Well, thank you,
or
Dean.
and fives, maybe fives too, fives and zeros. Anyway,
Thank you, Dean. I appreciate you, and I
appreciate you too.
will talk to you in a week. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a good night.